All right, welcome everybody. It is 6:31 on July 23rd, 2024. And I am calling the July meeting of ANC 6E to order. I'll start with a roll call. SMD 6E01, Commissioner Hart, present. SMD 6E02, Commissioner Viedma. I don't see. SMD 6E03, Commissioner Rogers.
Present.
SMD 6E04, Commissioner Blackson.
Present.
SMD 6E05, Commissioner Abu Khalaf.
Present.
SMD 6E06, Commissioner Forrest.
Present.
SMD 6E07, Commissioner Blackson. I'm sorry, Commissioner Carson.
Present.
Thank you. SMD 6E08, Commissioner Prince.
Present.
SMD 6E09, Commissioner Hans.
Yep.
Okay. We have 7 of, no, do I know how to count? We have 8 of 9 commissioners present, so we have a quorum. All right, Commissioner Abu Khalaf, would you mind pulling up the agenda? There we go. I do have a couple amendments to the agenda, but we have our normal updates to begin. Then we'll have a presentation from on the new MPD Department of Behavioral Health Co-Response Program, a presentation on the 7th Street Open Streets event. We'll hear from Douglas Development about a request for a public space permit for a playground and fence for a proposed daycare at 400 Mass Ave. We'll hear a presentation from the Department of General Services and the Department of Corrections for a special exception request for the proposed central cell block at 501 New York Avenue. And then after item 10, we had a last minute time sensitive request from Georgetown University to do a preliminary presentation on a zoning change to a previously approved zoning commission. I'm blanking on the terminology, but we'll add Georgetown at 8:45 just for 10 minutes, and then go into the resolution on street safety and SMD 6E05. And then due to a technical issue, we're not going to be able to approve the Q3 QFR tonight, so we are going to take that off of the agenda, and we'll push that to the next meeting. Any questions or concerns about either the items listed or the amendments? Okay, not hearing any. Do we have a motion to approve the agenda as amended?
Sure. I will.
Oh, go ahead.
I move to approve the agenda as amended.
Okay, and a second?
Second.
All right, Commissioner Prince moved and Commissioner Rogers seconded to approve the agenda. All those in favor, please vote aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
All right, the motion passes 8 ayes, 0 nays. All right, you can take, oh, great, thank you. All right, so the minutes from the June 25th meeting were shared with commissioners. I know we've made some updates and shared those back to Karen. Any other comments, questions, or concerns on the minutes? Okay, not hearing any. Would someone like to make a motion to approve?
Sure, happy to. I will move to approve the minutes from the previous meeting.
And a second.
Second, Denise.
All right, Commissioner Prince moved and Commissioner Blackson seconded to approve the June 25th meeting minutes. All those in favor, please vote aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
All right. Just because there's so many of us tonight, if you can turn your video on for the vote, it would be helpful. I did not hear Commissioner Carson.
Aye.
All right, and I did not hear Commissioner Rogers.
Aye.
Okay, great, thank you. The motion passes 8 ayes, 0 nays. All right, we'll move right along then and jump into our update from Councilmember Allen's office. And I believe we have Kate tonight. Where did Kate go? Kate, can you raise your hand again? Oh, there you are. Okay. All right, welcome, Kate, and I'm gonna give you permission so you can turn your video on there. Awesome. How are you, Kate? Good to see
I'm
you.
well. Thanks, everyone. Good to see you too. Happy summer. Happy in our world recess. So we're on legislative recess for about a week now. For those who aren't familiar, that means that the council isn't actively considering bills right now. Hearings are paused until we return in September 15th, on September 15th. It also means that committees are in their work period. So, for example, Councilmember Allen is the chair of Transportation and Environment. That means all the bills that are in our committee that we want to move forward have to come out of committee in September, or they will die at the end of the year. So this is a very busy summer for our legislative staff, even though we don't have hearings. On our constituent side, I would say it has not calmed down for sure. I took a look at our cases. We handle about 250 to 300 cases a month between our staff of 3, ranging from the very, very complicated to the very, very simple. In 6E, we see big trends, and I think we're seeing this word-wide in landlord-tenant issues, especially with our major buildings. Those are persistent concerns. Some are ones that we may not have the remedy for, but maybe the Office of the Attorney General might, or other players, and some we can be really helpful with. So I would say that's a concerning trend line that we're seeing, is a lot of big buildings with serious property management, and you all are very familiar with this, property management tenant issues, including in 6E. We're seeing a big spike in Department of Buildings problems, falling apart houses, construction issues, really you name it, it runs the gamut, but a big spike in DOB. So kind of taking a look, that in addition to all of our bread and butter, leaves, trash, parking, etc. And I would say from the social services side, access to public assistance, energy assistance, so SNAP, LIHEAP, all of those programs where there is great need, and the executive hasn't replenished those funds. We are really overwhelmed by requests that the executive can't meet at this time. So especially for SNAP, and a lot of glitches around SNAP. So just kind of a report out from our constituent team on the cases that they're handling. On the fun side of things, and I'm going to put this in the chat, it is our 10th, oh, sorry, maybe Q&A would be better so I can get to everybody. I'll drop in the Q&A in just a second. Actually,
I can move it over.
okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, Commissioner. Yeah. So it's Ward 6 week. It's our 10th, if you can believe it, annual Ward 6 week. This is a time where we host free events all across the ward. We try to hit every neighborhood. So it's running from Saturday, July 27th through Friday, August 2nd. Thank you, Commissioner Hart. That's the link to all of our events, just kind of as an overview. We always do, for little ones, a firehouse tour, and we still have some slots open for that. So it's my favorite one, and it's how we always kick it off. So please bring your kiddos. The RCP form is on that link. We're doing a lemonade stand contest also for kiddos. That's pretty cute as well. We're doing, this one is full, but it's the reopening of the Haynes Point mini golf course, which I didn't know this until they generously gave us tickets. It's the oldest golf course in the United States, oldest mini golf course. So they're reopening after many years of construction. We're doing office hours. We did them relatively recently in Northwest, so we're in Southwest this time, taking in the new donut shop and near the Safeway there. We have a lot of tickets left. Please come 6E to our tech house, which is how would I describe it? Kind of an immersive experience, like if anyone has seen the Van Gogh experience up in the old Foreman Mills, it's similar. We have free tickets from hundreds of them from like 10 to 2. So you can come at a 30-minute slot. And they're usually like $30 or $35. So it's more like a gallery feel, but it looks really beautiful this time, and it's good for everyone of every age. So definitely for kids too. We will be in the 6E neighborhood for Tunes in the Triangle on Wednesday, the 31st. And right after that, if you want to make your way to the Hill, we're doing a special Ward 6 trivia. So we have a special round just for you all that Charles hosts. We got a wine and cheese. We got a streetcar bar crawl that I shouldn't call a bar crawl. And then we're doing a big Nats game on Friday versus the Brewers. And we still have a few tickets left for that. So I think we have about a dozen events, all free for families, singles, everybody in between, and you are welcome all to come out. Sorry, I have a 1-year-old who just got home in the background. I'm happy to answer any questions, but as we kind of go into our summer recess, those are the highlights. Look forward to seeing you at many of our events. As a reminder, we have tickets for constituents for summer games, so please feel free at any time. They're free for you all to reach out to me or anyone in our office. They'll direct you to me for Nats tickets, especially groups or families who wouldn't otherwise be able to afford to go. We can put together packets for you guys of usually we get 2 tickets, but we can do more than that. So anything that's at Cap One Arena, especially family events, we've got a lot of tickets left. And then at Audi. So just as a reminder for those who don't know, those are all for you, for constituents for free. And we're happy to give them out.
Great. Thanks so much, Kate. And excited for Ward 6 week. It sounds like you guys have an awesome lineup of events. So I'll just open it up first to commissioners if you have any questions for Kate and from Councilmember Allen's office. Commissioner Abuclough, you came off video. Go ahead.
I can go if anyone else so need more time. It's good to see you, Kate. I'm glad that you brought up the issue with property management and large multifamily buildings facing issues with property managers. I know that this is a larger issue, but has there been any progress? Is the council member's office working with the Department of Building, AG's office? In my SMD, there are 2 buildings with major issues, and we've had conversations in the past, but it seems like the progress is a little bit on the slower side. So wanted to check in.
Thank you, Commissioner. It depends building to building. And some, I would say, especially one in your SMD is particularly egregious. Yeah, we had some correspondence with the head of the Tenants Association of that one, I think this week, that Charles was on. It depends building to building. One of the best tools that the city has is nuisance actions that the Attorney General can bring. He has introduced legislation, I think 2 weeks ago, to expand his authority in nuisance actions, which we would readily support. And also for every a certain number of Department of Buildings complaints, it would trigger automatic intervention. Because right now they really handle pattern of practice cases. And to be very frank, given just the volume that I see in our office, we have probably 20 major buildings with extremely serious issues throughout just Ward 6. Everything from fires to public safety and crime to really just awful, you name it, mold. They are intervening in several of those. And if there are commissioners who have, specific, if you want to meet with Charles about a specific building, some of those also have the privilege of having much more active tenants associations, like this one in particular in your SMD. And some are really on their own, or they have a lot of voucher holders where there just isn't the support structure, and our office can be more helpful in stepping in. Yeah, I will leave it at that.
Any other questions from commissioners? Looks like we do have one question on the line from Commissioner Nigro from our neighboring ANC 2G.
Hey,
Commissioner
how are you, Kate? How's it going? Can you hear
I'm
me?
good. Good evening, Commissioner. Yes, we can hear you.
So I'm concerned because I've yet to get a response back from my request to have a very, very brief phone call with Council Member Allen. It has been since the first week of May I put that request in. And I want to know why I have not gotten a response yet.
I will lift
You've
that
been on
up
that
with him,
email.
Commissioner.
Uh-huh.
I will lift that up with him.
But it's been lifted up now, I think, twice or 3 times. So here's the deal. So do I have to go to that concert next week to go see him? I mean, let me know, because it's really only a couple minutes phone call. Everyone's been on that email. You've been on that email. He's been on that email, you know, whatever. But in him, my question is, my ask for him is, will he be writing a letter of support for our side for 501 New York Avenue against a potential jail, right? Basically against a special exception being requested by the Department of General Services. As you are aware, he reached out to BZA prior for the Italian restaurant. I don't know the name of the Italian restaurant. What's the name of that Italian restaurant that there was a big hoopla about?
I think you're referring to Pachi's.
Yes. So, and which is fantastic. So I believe he wrote something for that restaurant. Am I correct?
Yes.
Yeah. So we'll be asking the same for him. And so my question is, how many people will it take for him to write that letter of support?
We haven't discussed whether or not to write a letter of support, and I don't believe he's been requested yet, so I'm happy to review that with him.
Thank you, Kate. Appreciate that. Any other questions for Councilmember Allen's office?
I see in the Q&A, someone was asking about Cobb Park progress.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, last we spoke with DPR, we were on track. So if construction has stopped, that is very recent news to me. We met with DPR leadership maybe 2 weeks ago. Oh, and thank you, Commissioner, you're dismissing that one. But I will absolutely get you guys if there's been some quirk. But we were completely on track and excited about it. So that would be news to me.
And I'm just seeing, I think Kenyatta's on, Kate, and can
Oh, great.
add a little more detail. So Kenyatta, go ahead.
Hi, can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. This is Kenyatta Robinson with the Mumford and Triangle CID. Obviously, that's a project that's near and dear to all of our hearts. We've been working very closely with the project managers from DPR, Department of Parks and Rec, and DGS. I've had 2 calls with them over the last 2 weeks. We have another scheduled for this Friday. And yes, the waterproofing for the portions of the park that's over the tunnel, that has been finalized and has been completed, and that portion is healing. There is literally one issue remaining, and that is with the, and Kate, this is within the council members area of purview, I believe, DOEE, and it relates to stormwater runoff. And so we want to keep as much stormwater, from our construction development projects out of, the system. And so we do have bioretention on site. We do not want water to be funneled in the direction of where we did the waterproofing, because that would be antithetical to why we did waterproofing over the tunnel. And so there may be a remedy requested whereby the bioretention that's going to be built at the site may have to be a little deeper, may have to be a little bigger to hold more water that will be generated through storms. And so that's literally where we are. And so there was revised proposal sent in from the project team late last week. We're hoping that DOE has responded to it by now, if not within the next day or so. And knock on wood, there will be something we can announce really soon about the final community meeting, and that will be the pre-construction meeting. So right before the project goes to construction is a final community meeting, to discuss aspects of that. And at that time, a more sort of refined timeline will be presented so that everyone knows when they can expect to enjoy the park. So that's where we are, the latest and greatest.
Love it. Thank you, Kenyatta. And our office will help in whatever way is necessary with DOE or any other agency, because this is a really important project and we are close relatively to the finish line compared to other Ward 6 projects, and we got to see it through.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks for that, Kenyatta, and thanks so much, Kate. The council member's office has been a huge supporter and instrumental in helping move this along. So we appreciate the continued attention to Cal Park.
It's going to be beautiful. My husband works at the WeWork and looks down on it every day and is very excited, just like everyone in 6E.
All right. Well, I'm not seeing, oh, we have one more. Okay. I think that covers it as far as questions go. So thanks so much, Kate. We appreciate the update as always, and I'm sure we'll be in touch.
Absolutely. Thank you, everybody. We'll see you at Ward 6 week, and please feel free to reach out to our constituent services team anytime. Thank you all.
Thank you. All right. So next up, we have our update from our Ward 6 Mayor's Office representative, and I may be messing up your title now, Marcus, if you're here. There he is. So all right, Marcus, let me just let you turn on your video and then you should be good to go.
Awesome. Can you hear me? Can
Yes.
everyone hear me? Awesome. Awesome. Can you hear me? There we go. So I want to say good evening to our 6E commission, as well as our 6E residents on the call, and some nearby neighbors. Welcome.
Marcus, sorry to cut you off. You're a little, you're coming in. Yeah.
There we go. I'm sorry about that. I gotta lift my computer up. My name is Marcus Manning, serving as the Ward 6 Manager in the Mayor's Office for Community Relations and Services. Good evening to all of our 6E commissioners, as well as our residents on the call and any nearby neighbors. I don't have too much to share, just some updates geared towards what's happening in the summer. More so following back up on the meal program. Their RC is having, they're giving away free meals for children or teens.
Marcus, sorry to stop you again. The sound's still,
Is it going in and out?
yeah, it's still pretty crackly.
It's like a lot of static, Marcus.
Some static. Let me try to turn it. Can you hear me better now with my camera off, or is it still?
No, it's still,
I think it might be your microphone. If you have like headphones or something, you have a microphone on, that might help.
I'm so sorry. Let
No
me
worries.
grab my headphones off my bag. Can I do that real quick?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry.
No worries.
I actually cannot find my headphones. I think I left them in the office. So I'm gonna try to move my desktop to somewhere else.
It's better now, Marcus.
It's better now? Okay,
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry. So I just have some quick updates related to what's happening in the summer. Aussie, they're having free meals given away for children 18 and younger, and it's different meal sites. So if you want to check out the meal sites, I can definitely put this in the chat. But just to mention it right now, the meal sites will be aussie.dc.gov/DC Youth Meals. So if you know anyone in need that needs a meal, definitely send those children to any particular locations. It's over 100 sites in the city that's offering this service to our teens and our children more so. The next is every Friday, DPR does a late night hike for teenagers that's geared around just various activities and more so peer relationship building amongst teens. So this week they will be at Woody Ward. I know it's particularly not in Ward 6, but if you have any nearby friends, relatives, or anyone in mind that want to particularly attend the late night hikes for the experience, definitely you can tell them to go to Woody Ward Recreation Center. Lastly, nominations are open for the 39th Annual Mayor Arts Award through the Office of, forgive me if I mess up their name, they're a long name for a long abbreviation. It's the Office of Cable Television, Film, Music, and Media, which is known as OCTF and Me, which they'll be actually capturing live performances having some surprise guests, and also highlighting some special talent throughout our nation's capital. And the theme is geared around homecoming and celebrating DC's creative spirit. So if you know anyone, particularly who's talented in anything around that artistic, I would say, viewpoint, definitely encourage them to attend or either try to see if they could become a participant. Reach out to me. I can share my information in the chat. And you can visit DC Mayor Arts Awards.dc.gov. I'm sorry, DC Mayor Arts Awards.com. My apologies for the mistake. To nominate any DC creatives, or even possibly to qualify to see if you want to potentially put your talent out there. Again, my name is Marcus Manning. I'm serving as the Ward 6 manager for the Mayor's Office for Community Relations and Services. I want to apologize for my technical difficulties earlier. My contact information is 202-538-1241. For anyone on the call that's listening through a phone, my email address is marcus.manning@dc.gov. Feel free to contact me, call me. I'm here to help, here to assist in any way possible. So thank you so much for allowing me to, speak today. Chair Hart.
Great. Thanks so much for that update, Marcus. Appreciate it as always. Any questions from commissioners?
Denise, yes. I want to congratulate Marcus on his new promotion as the Ward 6 Manager of Community Relations and Services. It's well deserved, and we appreciate you, Marcus.
Yes.
Thank you, Commissioner Black.
Absolutely second that. We're very happy for you, Marcus.
Same here.
And Commissioner Prince, looks like you had a question.
Yes, thank you. I'll also join in the congratulations. Marcus, I was wondering if you had any update on the situation at the encampment,
Yotel.
427 New Jersey Avenue, next to the Yotel across the street from the Hyatt.
Yep, right there next door to the firehouse as well. So I did report the pictures, as well as every email or any correspondence that I received directly to the encampment team over at the Department for Health and Human Services. So I know they have been engaging those folks, but my mission right now is to get connected with DOB. I know DOB, they provided me with the information for the firehouse, but particularly not that site exactly. So I'm just trying to get some coordination on who might the owner be, potentially to try to coordinate some assistance to, not remove the individuals off the property, but more so go through the proper processes of trying to, provide assistance and help for those individuals. So those two individuals that's currently there.
Right, thank you. It was my impression from my earlier correspondence on the thread you were joined into that the deputy mayor's, the office of the deputy mayor for planning and economic development, if they don't own it, they may have authority over it because they are planning to redevelop the property. So
Okay, yeah, so
they have information about that.
that definitely works. So I appreciate you sharing that, because if that happens, I know normally, and this is through the Health and Human Services, the encampment team, on private property or any property more so such as that, they can issue like a barring notice, and they could come in to properly assist those folks and not remove them, but properly assist them and help them out to transition away from the property.
Thank you. Well, it is unquestionably District of Columbia government property.
Okay, that definitely helps. So I can share that with the encampment team, just to let them know, and we can double check on that. So I appreciate that, Commissioner Prince.
Great, thanks, Marcus. I don't see any questions. Any final questions from commissioners? Folks on the line, raise your hand or press *9 if you're on the phone.
And any residents on the call, I'm available to walk the community with you, anywhere in Ward 6, particularly if you have any concerns related to infrastructure issues or any agency issues that you may experience. I can assist and try to connect you with representation from our counterparts and do my best to help you out.
Great. Thanks, Marcus. Really appreciate that. And I appreciate the update and congrats again.
No, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
All right. Great. So next up on the agenda, We have our PSA report from MPD. I think I saw Captain Herbenak. If you can just raise your hand. There he is. And all right, give me 1 second so you can come on video if you'd like. All right, should be good to go. Welcome, Captain Herbenak.
All right. Good evening. Can everybody hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, great. Not much new to report from the first district. We had one violent offense over the last 30 days. And that was going to be at the shelter at 425 2nd Street. I think that came up just a few moments ago. Today, we worked with our partners over at Public Safety Division of Department of General Services, as well as our unhoused outreach office in the mayor's office. And we actually cleared that encampment out that was around the shelter. They did take down the scaffolding as well around the shelter. We're hoping that that kind of prevents the encampment from propping up again. They put out notifications to all the individuals that were kind of residing unpermitted outside that would not be permitted in the future. So we're hoping that that's gonna kind of take effect, because we have been seeing a lot of issues arising from that encampment around the shelter itself. So we're very hopeful that this is going to kind of be a fix for that. We'll obviously continue working with the mayor's office on the unhoused, and as well as mayor's office on migrant affairs, to kind of continue outreach and services to those individuals that were affected by it. Because that was obviously part of the issue. That also dovetails into our scooter enforcement. I know we received a couple complaints from residents, as well as members that are here on the meeting today, about our scooter. Here today, we've kind of increased our scooter enforcement pretty significantly. We've recovered hundreds of scooters that weren't properly registered. And we've also had a number of arrests for people who weren't properly licensed to drive those scooters. There's kind of this misconception that some of those, that a scooter, because it's under 50 cc's, doesn't require the person to have a license. That's not true. So we are doing outreach within the migrant community, as well as just general community, about the requirements for having the vehicle registered, having a license. Now, for certain cc's or certain size scooters that can't go over 40 miles an hour, you don't require a motorcycle endorsement, but you do still require a license. To operate that, and they need to be insured, they need to be driving properly on the road. And we are looking forward to some of the council's new legislation on those scooters, as far as where they can be parked and where they can be kept during the day. Because I know that the other complaint that we received quite a bit is that the scooters are parked on sidewalks. Currently, legislation ordinances do not allow us to kind of remove those. They are allowed to be parked on the sidewalk, but I'm hopeful that the new legislation would change that, so that we can kind of get those, especially in our more downtown districts, where the sidewalk space is at a premium. That being said, crime continues to be trend downward. Robberies in the first district, and specifically in the area that's in ANC 6E, are down almost 50% year over year. So we're really happy about that. But we're not going to let our foot off the gas. We're going to continue kind of pushing that, and pushing our enforcement, pushing our active patrols, and doing quality of life enforcement around the areas that we're kind of seeing issues crop up, so that people can enjoy the spaces downtown and be safe. That's all I have for 1D. If anybody has any questions for me, I'm happy to answer.
Great, thanks, Captain Herbenak. Glad to hear the downward trend in crime is continuing, and appreciate the scooter enforcement efforts. Have started to notice that there's seems to be fewer at least parked around the area of 5th and K Street, which is an area a lot of residents have flagged. So appreciate the work you're doing there. Any questions for Captain Herbenak from commissioners?
Yeah,
Yeah, you go first.
Okay. Just commissioners, if you can raise your hands, so and I'll call on you in order.
Sure.
So Commissioner Abuclough first, and then Commissioner Rogers.
I just have a quick question about the rules governing property managers sharing footage, security footage, especially if it documented a car getting stolen from the parking garage or, like an incident conducted by a tenant. Are they legally required to do so, or there's a special process that MPD should pursue to get this footage?
So property managers can willingly share data, camera footage. So if we ask and they give it to us, that's fine. If some property managers, companies that have stuff on their server, whether it be some camera footage or other information, require us to get a search warrant. If we have an active case or a defendant, sometimes we'll go the route of getting a subpoena from the U.S. Attorney's Office. For the purposes of, the citizen on the street or the property manager, a subpoena and a search warrant work roughly the same way. There's no legal mandate for them to give us footage. The only time I would say that there's some sort of kind of responsibility or some sort of legal mandate is if they've signed on to one of the programs where they opt into having the footage. I'm thinking about the Capitol Shield, if they're a private resident, if they've signed up through our real-time crime center to be one of the participants where we can view their camera footage. Those would really be the only instances where they kind of like opted in. But if they don't voluntarily give it to us, we would go for a search warrant or a subpoena from the U.S. Attorney's or Office of the Attorney General.
Got it. Thank you.
And Commissioner Rogers.
Yes, I have a concern. Those scooters that does over 40 miles an hour, where they do 40 or over 40, they riding on the sidewalk on K Street, especially during the rush hour. One guy almost hit me when I was on the sidewalk, and he think he had the right of way. I'd like to know what y'all gonna do about that. And also, another concern of mine is the bike trails. Do those motorbikes supposed to be on the bike trails or with people walking along the bike trail? Because I'm talking about the one over in Normal, behind Harrison Teeters. You got a lot of scooters that ride real fast coming down on the back of that trail, and it really is, it's just a matter of time for one of them scooters to hit a child. So what are the rules and regulations for that?
So the sidewalk is a no in the downtown area, especially the Mount Vernon Triangle, the downtown bid area. They should not be on the sidewalk because bicycles aren't even allowed on the sidewalk there. So that's definitely something I'll pass on to make sure that we start enforcing that. They are not allowed to be on the bike. The only thing they can do on the sidewalk currently under ordinances is park on the sidewalk. But riding on the sidewalk, they cannot. As far as the trail, I will forward that over to our 5th district team. They have the trail. You're talking about the trail that runs along the red line. The name of it, I think it's like the WNO.
The MBT.
The Met Branch Trail.
Yeah, the Met. I don't believe that motorized vehicles are allowed on that, but I'll send that over to our 5th district team and get that figured out. They do enforcement. They have bicycle officers that go up and down that trail frequently and do enforcement and robbery prevention as well.
Yes, because I've been seeing them frequently riding on that trail. I know they do DoorDash and they have to get where they have to go, but I don't think it's right for them to ride on that trail back there, right? It's too many kids and mothers with their children in strollers, right, walking on the back of that trail.
I'm fairly certain that they're not supposed to be, but I'll have to confirm that.
All right, thank you.
All right, thanks, Commissioner Rogers. Any other questions from commissioners? I think we have a question on the line. I will say, so anonymous attendee says, thank you, MPD, Mount Vernon Triangle seems safer. So just want to pass that along. And then we do have a question from Commissioner Nigro from ANC 2G. Commissioner Nigro?
Hi, Captain. How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm okay. So listen, I'm a frequent flyer at the 7-Eleven. So my question is, how I get that we all want to enforce the rules for the scooters and all that, but I don't really see any enforcement. Is there going to be a plan there, or I don't see any enforcement on any scooters. So it is what it is. I don't know how you guys are gonna do it with the limited manpower you guys have.
Yeah, so what we do is we actually have like a task force. So we have officers who do overtime, and they've been doing the scooter enforcement mostly down Chinatown, Penn Quarter, Mount Vernon Triangle area. Now, as far as the scooters kind of hanging out, we have an issue over at Union Station, and we have an issue at 5th and K. And we also have an issue at the Portrait Gallery over in Chinatown, because those are hot spots for food. Parked on the sidewalk. That enforcement, I'm hoping, will come once the city council changes the rules about being parked, and we'll have to, because I think one of the prime issues that I'm hearing at 5th and K is kind of the glut of scooters on the sidewalk right in front of the 7-Eleven. Not necessarily that people are, getting DoorDash from the 7-Eleven. It's that they kind of are congregating there and creating a gaggle of scooters, makes it difficult for people to navigate the area. So I'm hoping that's where we can do the enforcement, and that will rely probably on our partners at DPW as well as the officers in this overtime task force that we use.
Great. Yeah, appreciate that, Captain Herbenak. And yeah, definitely the issue at the 7-Eleven is more congregation and blocking the sidewalk. But we also see a lot of dangerous driving with scooters along K Street, both weaving in and out of the bike lanes and not obeying traffic signals and things of that nature. So appreciate your attention to that.
Yep.
Any other questions?
Oh, you're muted.
Thanks for your update, Captain Herbenak, and thanks for all of your work in the 1st District. We'll look forward to seeing you, well, we're off in August, so we'll see you in a couple months.
All right, sounds good. Have a good summer, everyone.
All right, you too. All right, we'll move to our next item on the agenda. We also have MPD joined by the Department of Behavioral Health to talk about a new co-response program. So we have Captain Doro. And anyone else who is presenting on this item, please raise your hand. Let me give you the ability to turn your video on. All right, great. Were you expecting anyone else to join?
Officer Cunningham and Brittany, if you guys want to raise your hands, I have two of our team members here as well.
Okay, I see Brittany here. And Officer Cunningham, could you raise your hand again? There you are. Oh, just keep it up. Great, thank you. All right. And I'll let you all. And oh, it didn't go through.
Okay. I think, guys, I'll go ahead and get started as they switch over and turn their cameras on. Thanks for having us. Good to be here back in 1D. I worked for many years in the 1st District and attended this meeting regularly, so good to see some familiar faces. We started a pilot program about a year ago with the Department of Behavioral Health, and we are active in both the 1st and the 5th District, so we're kind of making the rounds and introducing the program. So what it is, it's an officer, a crisis intervention officer that partners with a clinician from the Department of Behavioral Health, and they ride in the car together and respond to calls for service involving behavioral health nexus. We started this last May, so we've been active just a little over a year. We had officers at first, and then DBH hired the clinicians in November, and they've been riding together ever since. They partner up every day and are just out in the street answering calls for service, just like the rest of our officers. So just to tell you a little bit about the operations of the program, it is a pilot program still. We're in 4 districts, like I said, 1 and 5, but also in the 3rd District and the 6th District. We have 5 officers, 5 clinicians. They're working Monday through Friday from about 8 a.m. to 7 p.m. We have 2 shifts that work. And again, the primary focus is to assist our patrol officers with calls involving mental health, behavioral health. So they're on the radio, answering calls for service, assisting officers, providing that expertise in real time, de-escalating scenes, assisting with emergency hospitalizations. So they've been staying busy. We've had close to 1,000 individual interactions with mental health consumers so far. And we hope to expand the program next year. We have a federal grant actually, to go into the 7th district next year. So we're hoping to do that. They are in uniform, they're in marked police cars, they ride in the car together, and done a ton of extra training with them. So they really are, and they already came in as experienced crisis intervention officers. So they have a ton of expertise, and it's been very successful from our point of view. So we wanted to kind of get the word out and share with the community what we've been doing. The last thing I'll say is that a few other things we assist with is chronic complaints, and we do that citywide. So if there are particular, persons that need a little more attention and service from the city due to their mental health issues, we've been helping with that. And sometimes there's particular places as well, apartment buildings sometimes, where there's a resident that needs a little extra help. So we've been helping with those situations as well. And then also critical incident scenes where we were seeing, like on barricade situations, even we were having a hard time getting someone's mental health records. So now we have someone we can bring on the scene in real time and assist us with that. That thankfully doesn't happen very often, but it is a resource for us. So I think I'll leave it at that. Happy to answer any questions, but first I want to give Officer Cunningham, Brittany, you can wave, say hi if you want to say anything. Please, say hello. Oh, you're on mute. I will say this is our team that's assigned to the 1st district, and we have a separate team that primarily works in the 5th district.
Hello, I'm Officer Cunningham. I'm assigned to the 1st district. I mean, he covered everything. We do our best to address all the mental health matters that come across his desk. And it's not easy, but we're doing the best we can every day.
And I'm Brittany. I do work alongside Officer Cunningham out of the 1st district.
Thanks, guys.
Great. Well, very nice to meet you all, and thank you for joining to tell us about this. I have a couple quick questions. One, how you talked about the positive outcomes. Are there like specific things you're seeing that are working really well that you're expanding? Just would love to know about some of the specific successes, because this sounds like a great program. And then have had a couple situations where I think cases that this team would be best to respond to have come up. So how is the best way to get in touch with you all if we have an issue that requires this kind of specialized attention?
Sure, a couple of things there. As far as kind of measuring the success, a lot of this is measuring negative, so it's very difficult to do. We are working on a couple of projects. It is still a pilot, so we are still in an evaluation phase. We do have a data team here we're meeting with regularly. We're tracking a lot of data to see what we can do. The co-response programs are still fairly new nationwide. So this is something a lot of folks are working on. So we've gone to a few symposiums, have presented at some already. Right now, we're just kind of collecting raw data. We're hoping to process that. I will say that I think a lot of the benefit of this is qualitative rather than quantitative, right? And it's just having that extra support out there, providing that expertise. So my primary goal going into this is that we, establish legitimacy with our officers and with the community. And I think we've been successful in that so far. That's really been our focus so far. But we hope to see some good, numbers as well coming out of this with outcomes. But it is hard to track when someone, falls out of the system for good reasons, so we'll see what comes of that. The other thing I want to mention is that we are, as far as getting in touch with us, the primary way is just to call 911. They work off of the district's channels, when we're working there on the radio and they're answering calls for service. Now, I will drop my contact information into the chat, so you'll have that. And if there are, like I said, chronic issues or anything like that, you can definitely reach out to me directly. But the other thing I want to mention is that we are just one part of a continuum of care, right? Like a continuum of response actually to crises, which ranges from, our 911 diversion program where, folks that call 911 that need help are just diverted either to the community response team that works with DBH. They go out directly, they can be dispatched, they can do follow-up. Then there's our team, which is still very limited. But also we have a ton of great CIO officers in the district, and all of our officers, even if they're not CIO now, have been trained in mental health first aid. So everyone has a little bit of some tools in their toolbox to deal with situations like that. And even before that, I think generally we did a pretty good job in dealing with that community. So yeah, there's a few steps in the continuum. This is just one piece of that we added, and I think it's been, as limited as it is, I think it's been of great benefit to this kind of the system as a whole so far. So
great. No, I appreciate that, and I'm glad to hear that. Any other questions from commissioners? Commissioner Blackson, go ahead.
Good evening. I just want to thank you, Captain Darrow, for sending Officer Cunningham and Brittany out to last week's safety meeting. It was a pleasure to meet them and for them to share what their team does. We really appreciate you.
Thank you so much. I was sad I couldn't make it, but
you sent a good group. Thanks.
See you soon.
Great. Glad you were able to join that meeting as well. Any other questions from commissioners? All right. I think I saw we may have a couple of questions on the line. Commissioner Nigro, go ahead.
No, I'm sorry. I don't have a
question. Oh, it was old hand?
Sorry. Not this time.
No problem. All right. Wow. Any other question from folks on the line? Feel free to raise your hand or hit *9 if you're on a phone. All right, well, not seeing any. Again, just want to thank you all for coming out. I think this is great work and really appreciate you sharing it with us, and wishing you continued success.
Well, your support's part of the success metric, so thank you so much. Yeah, good to see you. I'll drop my contact.
All right, please do. Yeah, and if you can just if you just drop it in the chat, we can share it out to everybody.
Take care.
Great, thanks so much. All right. And next we have an update on the 7th Street Open Streets event coming up in October, but since we don't meet in August, we wanted to get the news out soon. Kimberly, if you're here, could you just raise your hand so I can find you? Great. And let me just find you. So, all right, you should be able to turn your video on now if you'd like.
Hi.
Hi, how are you? Welcome.
Good. Thanks. Thanks for having me.
And
okay.
We have your slides up, so if you just give us a next slide, we'll move it along as you go.
Okay, perfect. Next slide. Thank you so much for having me. I'm just going to quickly go over, it's a very brief presentation, but I'm happy to dive into as much detail as you guys would like to talk about. Going over what Open Streets is, the event details, some calls for volunteers, some of the fun programming that we have available, and then any time for question and answers. Next slide. For myself, my name is Kimberly Vaca. I'm the District Department of Transportation's Public Space Activation Coordinator. So I manage our streetery program, parking day, anything fun that happens in public space, but more importantly, our Open Streets program. Next slide. If you are maybe not familiar with Open Streets, this event goes back to the 1970s internationally in Colombia, but came to the district for the first time in 2019 with our inaugural event on Georgia Avenue, and ultimately seeks to reimagine our streets in a new way, where we can envision what happens when you prioritize people over vehicles. The event proved to be such a success that we've hosted an event every year, and we've now hosted an event in all 8 wards. But this year we are coming to 7th Street Northwest to close 1 mile of 7th Street to cars and open it for people to safely walk, bike, scoot, play, learn about transportation safety. So we'll have a bunch of educational groups out teaching people about bike maintenance, how to safely navigate our roadways, participate in a range of family-friendly activities. Fomberie will be there. We'll have live music, free fitness classes, and then also to support the local businesses. This is unusual to a typical event where maybe you would have food trucks or outside vendors come in for the event. We do not allow that for open streets. We only allow businesses on the event route. And I apologize if you can hear sirens as I'm outside. Next slide. For the specific event, this will be held on Saturday, October 5th from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. On 7th Street from Rhode Island at the northern end to East Street Northwest at the southern end. Oh my gosh. It's 1 mile in length. Sorry, they're passing.
That's all right. We really can't hear them.
Okay, great. Okay, then
Yeah.
I'll just keep going. And then people of all ages again are welcome to attend. So something that actually I need to update since I sent this in last week is that we were just notified about an event at the Capital One Arena where they'll need the roads to reopen early. So we will be doing a phased closure starting at New York Avenue South. The event will actually end at 2 p.m. instead of 3. So everything north of New York Avenue is business as usual, but everything south of New York will end early at 2 p.m. But we'll make sure to let everyone know what the detours are as appropriate. Next slide. So some things to keep in mind, this is a free event. There's no RSVP, no tickets needed. We will be posting all vehicle and bus detours to the website about a month in advance, so you can plan accordingly. Given that we are closing off 1 mile of 7th Street, we encourage attendees to not drive, but to walk or bike or take the metro to open streets, and we'll provide more information about how to actually do that if maybe you're not familiar with those methods of transportation. And then while the event is from 9 to 3, the road closure will be from 7 a.m. to 5 p.m., allowing for 2 hours before and 2 hours after for us to set up and tear down the event. So it's a very, very quick, very tactical event. And we only have a few short hours to set everything up. We will be posting emergency no parking signs along the entire corridor that start at midnight. So if you are parking your car on 7th Street, make sure that it is moved by midnight of Saturday, October 5th. And we'll just be doing courtesy tows if someone forgets. The event happens rain or shine. So if the weather is weird that day, still come out, bring your ponchos. We've been in hurricane remnants before, so we are prepared to do this again. We will have water stations and bathrooms available. And again, just like free programming along the route, from fitness classes to live music and free swag. Go to the next slide. Something that we started last year that I'm really excited to bring back is a bike giveaway. We are giving away 51 bicycles for 51 states. #DC statehood, to district residents at open streets. We have 22 adult bikes and 29 kids bikes to give away to district residents only. The form to sign up is currently on our website on our event page. So tell all your friends, sign up if you're looking for a free bike. It's a very simple form. You will be required to show proof of residency. If you are selected, it is a random selection, random drawing. We'll email everyone the week of the event for you to then pick up your bike at open streets. We'll not be holding the bike. We'll be raffling any unclaimed bikes at the end of the event. And you will be required, if you are selected, to show your ID or a piece of mail or some sort of verification that shows that you do live in the district, given that they are being funded with district funds. But we're really excited, and we'll have those form open until October 3rd. So there's some time. The next slide. Something that I do want to put out a call for is for volunteers. We could not do this without you all helping us facilitate this. We're closing 1 mile of DC roads, so it takes a lot of human power to get that done. We need help with setup, information tents, activation zones, so like those music and fitness areas, the bike giveaway, and tear down. So if you're interested, the shifts can range anywhere between 2 to 3 hours, depending on what you select, and you will receive exclusive open street swag in addition to, the white t-shirts that we always pass out each year, but also a free annual membership to our cabbie system, which is a $95 benefit if you do sign up. So the volunteer link is also on our website if you're interested. I can also email it to this group. And then lastly, any questions, feel free to email us at openstreets@dc.gov or visit our website where I post constantly all updates to programming, scheduling, detours, etc. So I'm here to be a resource if you have any questions. Thank you so much.
Great, thanks so much, Kimberly, and very excited for another Open Streets event coming up. Any questions from commissioners? All right, not seeing any. We do have one typed in from Steve, and he asks if there will be any activities for seniors at the Open Streets Festival.
We have in the past invited this really wonderful group of senior steppers to come out. And then we have also invited this group that we found in Brookland. They just showed up at the 12th Street event, set up some speakers and started like this very informal dance classes, and we loved them. So we've invited them back each time. But if you have any suggestions, any organizations you'd love for us to showcase, to include, please email them to us. We are currently taking suggestions for programming. We focus on the wards that are hosting the event, so those that are in wards 2 and 6, but we welcome organizations district-wide. So please send them our way. And we'd love to encourage more events focused on that demographic for sure.
Great, thanks. Make sure we pass any ideas along. Any other questions from folks on the line? Feel free to raise your hand or hit *9 if you're on the phone, or type into the Q&A. All right, I'm not seeing any. Thanks for the update, Kimberly, and we'll look forward to October for the event.
Awesome, thank you so much.
All right, thanks. Have a great night. Okay, so next up we have Douglas Developments joining us for a request for a public space permit for a playground at 400 Mass Ave. I see Drew Turner's here. Drew, I'm going to move you over. If you could pull up the plans, Commissioner Abuklaf, when you have a second. And Drew, let me just, you can turn your camera on. All right, we should be good to go. Welcome, Drew.
Hey, Chris, thank you so much. Did you also allow Raj Panchal to join as well from Higher Ground?
Sure, Raj, if you could just raise your hand so I can find you easily. Great. Oh,
you read my mind. You read my mind. You went to exactly where I wanted you to go. Thank you. This is choreographed.
Excellent. All right, and Raj, I'm going to let you turn your video on too. All right, we should be good to go.
All right, great. Chris, thank you so much for the introduction. Commissioners, thank you for having us tonight. My name is Drew Turner. I am with Douglas Development, and we are the owners of the retail at 400 Massachusetts Avenue. So it includes the restaurant and the old firehouse, the traceries, office space, and what was the former CVS at the corner of Mass Ave, 4th and H. As you all know, you guys are all, obviously members of the community, the CVS. This was one of the COVID stats in terms of retailers. And they've been out for some time now, and we've been out marketing the space. And we're really excited about the opportunity here with Higher Ground. They're an early education group that's all around the country. I'll let Raj speak to it. But just as a landlord, it's always exciting to have really community-oriented retailers that can service a great group within the neighborhood. This space itself is about 13,000 square feet that they would be taking, around 130 students. And what we're here today specifically for is requesting the support of the ANC for a play area and public space on the Massachusetts and 4th Street side of the property. So before I get into the presentation on what we're proposing, I just wanted to let Raj speak briefly about Higher Ground, who they are, where they're currently operating, and just to give you all a little background on what the school is and how it's set up. So Raj, you want to take that?
Sure, absolutely. And apologies, I can't have my video on. I'm juggling my 3-year-old at the same time right now. But let me just give you a quick 30 seconds on Higher Ground Education. We are the parent company of Guidepost Montessori. We started back in 2016, currently have over 150 locations across the United States, plus a handful of locations internationally. Our Montessori schools primarily serve infants from age 6 weeks through kids that are approximately 6 years old. A typical school for us can be call it about 150 kids plus minus. We're typically open, early morning from 6:30 to 6:30 in the evening, Monday through Friday. We have, multiple schools throughout Greater Virginia, but this would be our first school in proper DC, actually. As we continue the presentation, feel free to let me know if you have any questions about us or our school, but Drew, I'll turn it back to you so you can talk about the site specifics here.
Yep, great. Thank you, Raj. So Chris, if you can just jump to the next slide. So what I've included here, just for everybody's understanding, we're in currently with DDOT. We've submitted an application for public space improvements. And I just wanted to give some context. I know most of you know the block, you know the site. But what you're looking at here is the entrance, Mass Avenue looking east, the entrance of the condo building. And directly in front of it is the planter area that currently right now, it's a handful of trees, some lower vegetation, and really just, it's not cafe seating, there's no benches, it's really not open to the public in any sense or shape. And then there's a small walkway behind that fronts the old CVS space. And so, yep, the second slide is just another view. And then you get a view going down Massachusetts Avenue, looking westbound. And so what we are proposing to do, and if you scroll down a few and you can zoom out a little bit, this is an existing conditions plan of what you just saw. And if you go to the next slide, we have met with DDOT already and received some feedback. And we understand also from meeting with the condo association here, as well as with the SMD for the location, that, greenery is important. And we appreciate that as well. With the kids playing in here, we do want to have as much natural shading as we can. So in this plan, we show a few trees coming out that are closest to the driveway to the far west side of the playground. They've got an X going through them right now. Those we are going to plan on saving, and we're currently working to tweak the design to maintain those larger trees. The walkway that's currently running kind of the middle of this planter area, we are proposing to remove, and you'll see a next slide of how we've reoriented and re-angled that. So if you go to the next one, this is just tree protection of how we're going to protect the trees that we are keeping. Keep going. So right here, this is really the meat of it. As I said before, the area that is in this plan furthest to the west, that has got that 8 right there and the 1, that's all playground surface. We are going to be reorienting that so that we can keep and maintain those crepe myrtles that are given the shade along the street frontage. So we will be making tweaks to this, but this gives you the general sense of what it is we're proposing. We're proposing to put in a new fence that surrounds this that is slightly taller than what's out there right now. We're proposing a 6-foot high fence. And this is really a just safety and security concern with young kids playing in here. We want to make sure, one, they're not climbing over any lower fences, and 2, God forbid somebody's got bad intentions with kids nearby, aren't able to easily reach over the fence. But basically it's split up into a little bit of a larger playground play area for older children, and then it progressively gets smaller down to infants. One other thing we will be proposing in this is bollards that are built into the fencing. Once again, just a safety concern with children playing so close to Massachusetts Avenue, even though I do know that Mass Ave is, for the most of the time, not moving very quickly. We do think it's just prudent and something that we can architecturally make look very nice, but also give a barrier and safety for any out of control vehicular traffic. If you keep going down, I've included some concepts, keep going, of the playground equipment. Nothing's been finalized in terms of the final selections, but just gives you the idea of, the larger one is for the larger area. And then the smaller stuff is for as the children get progressively younger. But if you scroll down a little bit more, you'll see the next plan down, the rough orientation of where this would lay out within those planter areas. If you can envision Massachusetts Avenue being in the north side of this plan, and then the entrance to the building being on the west and Fourth being on the right. So that is really what we're looking at as it relates to the playground equipment. We are, as I said, looking at and will be maintaining some of these trees. You can stop here for the playground. But we're going to maintain as much of the greenery as we can. And we welcome feedback. Before we take questions or comments, I did want to also address a couple other items that I know were brought up during the condo association meeting. One of the main ones was transportation and traffic. So if you scroll down to the next page, this is not part of our public space application, but we will and are working with DDOT curbside management. So this is H Street on the back side of the building at 4th and H, looking down towards Chinatown. And you can see those cars that are parked to the right there. That is going to be the main entrance. If you go down one more page, where the old CVS entrance was, where that little shopping symbol is, that is where the front entrance to the school will be. And we are currently working with curbside management at DDOT. We've had great success with them for allowing to have a pickup and drop off area during certain hours. So during the peak hours of drop off in the morning and then pickups in the evening, we'll take roughly 3 spots here. And we feel like that'll be sufficient in terms of mitigating any kind of congestion or traffic borne by students drop off and pick up. And then we also do expect a fair number of, of parents at drop off here of being local. We really hope and would expect that a handful of people are going to be riding bikes, going to be walking in strollers, going to be taking metro or the bus. So we think we've got a pretty good plan here for vehicular access and traffic. So with that, I'll open it up to questions. Appreciate the feedback and thank you for the time.
Great. Thanks so much, Drew and Raj. Appreciate the presentation. And so Drew, I did have a quick clarifying question and then I'll open it up to other commissioners. So the main entrance will be on H Street.
Yes.
And so there would just be like a secondary or emergency exit on Mass Ave. Is that?
I think that's really going to be more
oriented
to get in and out of the playground. And that'll be the primary use of that entrance.
Okay. And I don't know how far your conversations with DDOT have progressed. I think we've found that PUDO signage is difficult to enforce. So I don't, as you're having those conversations, I don't know if you're thinking more like around schools where you see like a no parking, or like a 15-minute parking zone for a certain period of time. I don't know how far your conversations have gotten in terms of what that curbside management is going to look like.
So we had success over at 6th and L Street, and Commissioner Nagro could probably speak to it, but with the pickup and drop off, and obviously it's never perfect. It's no different than any other sign that goes up, but we've had pretty good success with Bambini the facility that's there. And you know, I feel like it's pretty rare, and I say this from experience because I work in that building and pull out of that garage and turn right to leave in the afternoons when they're doing their pickup and drop off. And it's pretty rare that you've got people like double stacked or not being able to get into the designated area. But I do agree, you know, enforcement is obviously a priority with DDOT.
Sure. Okay. No, that's good to know. And yes, I don't, you know, I walk through 6NL fairly frequently and have never really noticed a backup there related to the daycare. So, okay. Commissioner Hans, did you have some questions?
Yeah, I have a couple of questions related to like how many serious inquiries have you guys gotten about that space since CVS has shut down? Is this really the only one, or have there been others?
I think there's been a handful here and there.
Okay.
But certainly this is one that's attractive for a handful of different reasons. One, you know, it's a best in class operator. They've got locations like Raj mentioned all over the country, all over the world. They got a great track record. They run a really incredible program. And so you look at that, you know, you means you've got somebody that's going to be successful, and you know, they're going to be community oriented and community focused. And it's also the breaking up that space is a little bit tough in terms of how you break it and where access points end up being. There's some grade changes between Massachusetts Avenue and H Street. And so for us, you know, not having, you know, breaking it in two and having, you know, two separate restaurants or something in an area that's had challenges when it comes to restaurants. This really is a great opportunity, we feel like, for, you know, both from like a landlord standpoint, but also from a community standpoint, to take some dark retail and fill it with some life.
Okay, cool. Another question is, how high will the playground be, and is it going to be higher than the existing trees that are there that are there right now? Because I just want to make sure nobody's view from the apartment is going to be obstructed because of the playground. I imagine not, but
I don't expect it to be. Those trees are pretty tall.
okay, yeah.
I no, that I don't expect any of the equipment to be taller than the existing trees.
Hey, Commissioner Mr. Raj, no, that equipment is not anticipated to exceed the height of those trees. I think just looking from that street view image, I think those trees reach probably, 15 feet approximately. And equipment does not get that high.
Okay. And then my final question is about the 3 spots that you guys are going to take on H Street. That will just be blocked off for pickup and drop off. So once you don't have those hours, people can still park there like normal, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Same thing we did on L Street.
Okay. Those are all my questions.
Okay, great. We'll keep going with questions from commissioners. Commissioner Prince, go ahead.
Hi, thank you. I'd just like to ask a little bit more for clarity on the fence in the front. Is this going to be sort of a, I guess I want to say opaque, but not see-through, and maybe high? I'm thinking, is it going to be like the fence over at over at Fifth and Fifth and G by the GAO? They have a daycare over there, where it's quite tall, I think, and you can't really see through it. And could you describe that a little bit more? And just also, would the plan be for the area on H Street, where there, of course, is no greenery? I presume we're going to have sort of blacked out windows or some kind of privacy scheme to, I can't remember what's on the other side. Maybe those are just display windows, but what's that going to look like? So those 2 questions, because that is going to change the aesthetic of that site.
Yeah, so I don't know if Chris, you're able to pull back up the presentation, but the answer is it's a picketed fence. And it's on the, I don't know what page is this, sorry. It's on the 7th page of the presentation in the top left corner. So the short answer is no, it's not going to be something you can't see through. Air is going to run through it. You'll be able to, if you go down to page or up, yeah, going down. Next page. And then, yep, there you go. So that's what the fencing will look like. And then as it relates to the 8th Street side, you are correct. There's quite a few displays right now that were CVS displays. Those will be opened up. And Raj, I honestly, we haven't gotten as far as designing a facade, but what do you expect in those areas where there's classrooms there? And I don't know if it'll be frosted or if it's, I don't know what you've seen at your other locations.
It's usually a combination depending on what we have, but I wouldn't be surprised if they're just typical storefronts. It won't be like CVS where we have multiple pictures or banners or sale offers or anything of that sort. But I would expect just a clean window, and then I think we do need to just discuss what the privacy may be like. At most of our locations, we typically have just blinds on the inside, but we're open to, doing what's right here.
Okay.
Did that answer your question?
Yeah, mostly. I wanted to confirm, particularly what the fence will look like. And it looks like it will be, you see through it, which plus and minus. It's a fairly noisy location. I actually think that traffic goes faster than you described it. There is a lot of traffic there. There's probably exhaust fumes, but at least it won't be a visual block, but there are pluses and minuses on both sides. And thanks for the description of what it will look like around on H.
Thank you.
Great. Any other questions from commissioners? All right, well, we have quite a few questions coming in, both from folks that have raised their hands and in the Q&A. I will encourage folks, I see some folks have typed in a lot of questions. It may be easier for you to just come off mute to ask them. Given that we have a lot of interest, as we do on all meetings, we'll just ask that folks keep their comments or questions to 2 minutes or less. We'll start with folks that have raised their hand. We have Eggle. I'm sorry if I mispronounced that. Go ahead.
Hi, no, you actually got it right. So I live in 400 Mass. I've lived here for 11 years now, and I work from home full time. I know this is a concern for a number of people working from home full time. Just the noise coming out of the playground, particularly given the hours of the playground's operation and the daycare's operation, and the fact that a lot of us who are working full time are also sitting right next to that window, myself included. So, I mean, I'm not particularly interested in seeing the CVS space go to this daycare, mostly because of that. The aesthetics to the exterior of the building from the street, and the fence being an eyesore, but particularly for the trees that are going to be cut down. It looks like from the board meeting that where the presentation and the plans were shown that additional trees are being spared now. Is that the case, Drew and Raj?
Yes, that is correct. The larger crepe myrtles that run along Massachusetts Avenue, adjacent to where your drive area is, we are saving those 3 larger trees.
But what about the other side? Because that other side, all of the trees essentially, like the barrier that landscaping provides, one does dampen the noise. It also offers a little more privacy to anyone who is living on that side of the building, particularly the east side. So I mean, I'm not interested. I don't want any of the trees to be cut down. But the trees are a big concern of the residents in this building. So that I just wanted to voice and let you all know. The other issue is the fact that during the meeting where Higher Ground and Douglas Development presented at the board to the residents of 400 Mass, the stairwell on the east side was going to be inaccessible to exit because it's going to lead out to the playground.
Sorry, Megal, I'm gonna have to stop you there.
Okay, I can put
all
the
right.
rest of the questions in the Q&A if you'd like, because we have I have a number of things that I would like to hear updates on that were questions from the board meeting.
Sure, and I'm sure we'll cover
Sure.
some of them too, but if we don't, feel free to drop them in the chat. Thanks.
Sounds good. Thanks.
Drew or Raj, I know there were several questions there. Is there anything you want to address before we move on to the next question?
I mean, the children playing in a playground, it's city living. You know, I can understand and appreciate that if you're working from home, any noise is a disruption. But you know, currently a vacant space and, you know, a streetscape that, you know, could be activated. I can appreciate the concern, but I can't stop kids from laughing and having fun while they're outside on the playground.
Thank you.
Some additional color on the fencing. Look, I don't think it's too dissimilar from the fencing that is out there today. Granted, it would be about 2 feet higher, but that is something that we would require essentially for the children's safety. None of our locations across the United States have only a 36-inch fencing area.
All right, appreciate that context, Raj. All right, so next question I see is from Ryan Dunn. Go ahead, and just a reminder again, 2 minutes maximum.
Can you all hear me okay?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, I apologize. I'm on a layover traveling back to DC. I have been a resident in this building for 12 years, and I find it interesting some of the language that's being used by Douglas Development. I would say based on the board meeting when they came and presented last month, the majority of residents are not excited about this going into the building. Drew Turner keeps using the word exciting. I think the only people that are excited about this overall are Douglas Development because they're trying to look for a tenant for that space. This will not build community. This is going to destroy community at 400 Mass. This is not something that the majority of the residents want in that building. It's going to be an eyesite. It's going to destroy property values, having a playground right next to the building. As another resident said, there's going to be additional noise. We have a changed world now in the wake of COVID. More people are working from home. It's going to be additional noise of kids playing right next to the building. Traffic is going to become a nightmare. It's already congested. I know they're claiming that the parents are going to drop off their kids on H Street. I think parents are going to try to use our semicircle on the Massachusetts Avenue side because they can pull off the busy street to drop off their kids. Higher Ground was very dismissive about trying to enforce parents to try to block our semicircle. That's the only place residents can get in and out of the parking garage. We already have congestion from Postal Service, Amazon, Uber, Lyft. We don't need any more parents using that circle. They've offered no incentive in terms of how to enforce it, to find these parents. We're talking like 150 kids, 150 parents. Trying to enforce that will be an absolute nightmare. Trying to destroy all the beautiful landscaping right next to our building. No one wants
Ryan,
that.
I'm going to
This
have
is
to
not
cut you
something
off
that
there.
anyone
Sorry about
wants
that.
other than Douglas Development.
All right. All right. Just in the interest of time, folks, you know, if you have specific questions about the proposal, that's helpful. We're happy to hear comments too, but you know, I know we got a lot of folks that want to talk. We'll go to Brian Moore. And again, you can come off mute and go ahead.
Thank you for your time. I've lived in this building since 2007. I believe the majority of the people here in this building do not care. They would like to see someone occupy the space. I think the only concern from where I'm concerned is the emergency stairwell on the Mass Avenue side. I really have a problem with that being blocked. But right now, that area in question is most utilized by homeless people and panhandlers. I've seen a couple try to set up tents. People walk their dogs there. I'm hoping that having a daycare there will invite better security and attention from police. And most of us are going to be gone during the main operation hours, even though a lot of us work from home. I don't really believe it's a problem that some of the opponents of this plan are making. Kid noise cannot be worse than Mass Avenue traffic noise. The kids aren't going to be outside all day, even when the weather's at its best, and the parking has to be less than what it was for CVS. And that includes the foot traffic of people going in there at all hours of the night and causing all kinds of problems. It seems that most of these kids are going to come from walking distance, and just in general, the nuisance has to be less. All that being said, can you address, please, the issue of the Mass Avenue stairwell and whether that's going to be blocked?
Thank you, Brian. And Drew and Raj, yeah, if you could respond to that question about the stairwell.
I would be totally honest with you. I should have an answer to your question. I don't, but I will follow up with you guys. We will not be blocking any kind of egress point out of the building that doesn't meet code, that doesn't, if a egress there is exiting out of the building in this location, we're gonna have to accommodate it. It's a code requirement.
Okay, thank you. All right, our next, sorry about that. All right, next we'll go to Terry LaFavors. And again, folks, try to keep your comments and questions as succinct as possible. Thank you. Terry, you can come off mute.
Am I unmuted? Can you hear me?
Go ahead. Yep.
Yes.
Okay, so I guess this is for Mr. Turner. How many of your facilities in the US right now have a playground in the front yard of a residential condominium?
That would be a question for Raj in terms of, but I can say just within the district itself, we have a few different locations of tenants that are just one recently on Bladensburg Road that was just in a residential neighborhood. But Raj, do you have any examples for this specific question of where you guys are in a building that is a residential building?
You know, Terry, we have certain examples in urban locations where we are at the bottom of a mixed-use building. If it's specifically a residential building, I don't have that clarity, but we are in several mixed-use spaces in, call it, New York, Chicago.
I'm talking about in the DMV, particularly Washington, D.C. That's where our comparables will come from. They will not come from Chicago, please, from Washington, D.C. Do either of you or any of you have that information? Thank you.
We do not have a location in Washington, D.C. properly.
Okay.
We have a charter school, Eagle Academy, in Buzzard Point in Southwest DC, in a building that's got 450 units. And I welcome you to go by and take a look at what they do during the day on a nice day. They play along the water, along the Anacostia, and it's actually a very nice environment during the day. And I'm happy to share information on that with you if you'd like.
Okay, and then one last thing, and it has to do with the H Street entrance. I understand that either DDOT or someone else is going to allow parking for 3 or 4 cars. Are any of you aware that 3 Metro buses turn that corner and go down that street to pick up all the people who live along there? And what's the likelihood that they're going to be able to stop in enough time for people and children getting in and out in the morning between 6:30 and 9:30? I suspect that's the drop-off time. And in the afternoons from 3:30 until 6, when there's no parking simply because of the Metro buses and all the other traffic that turns from 4th, onto H.
All right, thank you, Terry. I'm gonna have to stop you there. Drew, I think if you can address that one, it seemed like the spots in question are set back from the corner.
They are, and they've even got a little indent, I believe, like a little inset along H. So I appreciate the concern, and like I said, nothing's ever perfect when it comes to cars moving within a city, but we are pretty far. I'd venture to say it's maybe from the crosswalk, probably 60 feet to where the pickup and drop off location is.
Great. And I think, we have a pretty wide turn radius there, so I don't think the buses have any trouble making that corner, just to add that context. All right, 400 Mass resident, appreciate. Go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. Good afternoon. One concern that I have, in addition to the property values, the trees, the noise, and aesthetics, the backside parking, gentlemen. This is a 256 units building. It has a loading dock with one parking that from time to time is shared amongst the trash pickup and so many other mess that we are always dealing with. It is very, very difficult for any work that needs to be done by any of the owners, be it a painter or a contractor, to find space to bring in their equipment and back. And now from that little stretch that potentially has space for 6 or 7, 3 or 4 of them are going to be dedicated to this purpose. So that by itself is going to create a lot of headache for all of the residents at 400 Mass. Thank you.
Great, thank you. I do believe the 400 Mass is a fairly large parking garage that residents have access to. Is that correct?
He's talking about the loading dock, but I think this was addressed when they came to the board, that they're not going to be using the loading dock very much. If that's correct, right, Raj and Drew? And if I remember correctly, I think CVS had used it twice a week. So, yeah.
Yeah, and I think, just to be clear, in terms of the parking situation along H, we're proposing a pickup and drop off area only for a certain period of time in the morning and in the afternoons. So it's not to say there won't be parking available during business hours. It's just earlier in the morning and later in the evening.
Thank you. All right, we do have one more question from Commissioner Nigro, and then in ANC 2G, and then we have quite a few in the Q&A. We won't be able to get to all of them, but I'll try to cover any points we haven't heard already.
Okay. Hi, everyone. So just to speak so briefly about, Drew had mentioned about the Bambini Center at 6th and L Street that I represent. I know it's not totally the same, but there is a lot of pickup and drop off there at that corner. And that is busy, 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 to say the least. And so it works actually just fine. And to be frank with you, the pickup and drop offs for the Bambini Center is the least of our concerns in my area. So it works, there's lots of action. So I'm just speaking to that. But my question is for Drew, is for this whole playground thing, I don't quite get the purpose of the playground when there's a new park being built literally across the street, the Cobb Park, that we've heard about for years and millions of dollars is being spent on. So I don't quite get, again, I'm not a mother, don't come for me. So I don't know. But I don't quite get when you got a park right across the street. Or coming soon.
No, noted. And we obviously have been following Cobb Park. I've been involved with the planning of that from way back when. So it's definitely a point taken. But to be fair, when you think about the ages of the students we're talking about that are going to be in this facility, and if it weren't for having the opportunity of taking what is now just planting area, and maintaining much of the vegetation there, and then also implementing something that can activate the area and provide a very safe and easy, accessible location for students to play, versus crossing a couple very, very busy streets. The opportunity just seems like it's the downside is very low. I mean, I've heard the comments from everybody, but it just seems like there's a great opportunity to put a small and usable playground in an area that is otherwise underutilized today.
Thanks, Drew. I do see one more hand from Carolyn. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think you've heard from a few of us here in the building, and we have strong opinions, and some say it's one way, some say it's another. We are on a corner where it is huge amount of left, right, this, that, going into a tunnel, into a highway. It's not the common place to put a playground, you know, so I think there's strong feelings there. And if it was further in the backyard or further, there was a place, but it's literally right in front. Did I hear, Drew, you talked about like can't have people, can't stop them from laughing and joking, and it's underutilized. There is a big issue with the aesthetic and the noise. So one baseline data I need from you, and then a follow-up question. The first one is, with it's approximately 150 kids, correct? Something to that effect? How many recesses or hours a day will the kids be outside? Will it be from 9 to 11, from 1 to 3, from 5 to 7? How many hours and how many at a time? I don't want to hear high level information where we get the sense. I'm asking for baseline data.
I'm gonna defer to Raj. I understand you're asking for, I don't have the answer to that. Raj, do you have the answer to that? And if not, Caroline, we can.
Excuse me, Drew, this was asked before. We can't have generalities about what's nice and what's not nice. How many kids and how many hours a day and which hours?
Carolyn, we don't have those specifics for you, but I think like it was mentioned in the board meeting, you know, it could be anywhere from 3 to 5 hours a day. But given the size, there's only so many kids, you know, from a square footage standpoint that we can have out there. So these kids will be going in shifts, right? We can't have all 150 kids out there obviously at the same time. This is not like public recess period. This is going to be staged, and with our younger kids, we have to essentially work around nap schedules. So it's going to be done on a rolling basis.
Thanks, Raj. Appreciate that. Do you have one more question from Daniel? Go ahead.
Hi, as I'm trying to put my kids to bed. Whether the playground is approved or not, if it is there, we would like, myself and other families, other parents who live at 400 Mass are interested in accessing that playground, not having it walled off. And we would treat it very, very fairly if we were able to have, let's say, access to a door code or some sort of arrangement. We mentioned during the last meeting that we would like to have a continuing dialogue about this to see how could this could be negotiated. It would be in our best interest to treat the playground as nicely as possible. We would definitely not trash it. I don't know who trashes a playground. I've never seen a trash playground before. But we would treat it very, very respectfully. And our window faces where that playground would be, and our kids would constantly walk right by and see right outside our window and say, why can't we go there every single day? We would like to have a dialogue about how we'd be able to share it if it does come about.
Okay, thank you, Daniel.
Thank you.
Roger, Drew, I don't know if you could comment.
We've talked about it, and Raj, I don't know if you've gotten any further in terms of how it's really just a liability discussion and how we ensure that, you know, whatever liability exists, that that we can do it in a safe manner if someone's playing on it when it's off hours or so on. Raj, have you guys got any more feedback on that internally?
No, but in general, you know, Drew, we are open to that, to keeping it or opening it up to residents of 400 Mass. We would just need to work out the liability concern there, as we had discussed.
And Daniel, let us get some better concrete information for you on what that actually means, so we can follow up.
Great, thank you for that. All right, and I recognize we're over time, so apologies to the folks that are coming up on the agenda. We'll take about take a couple more minutes to address any questions, and then we'll move on to discussing the proposal. But Francis, go ahead.
Hello, my name is Francis Laguerra. I live just right above the on the second floor, right above the proposed playground. And then I was thinking of the noise that will create or the disturbance. So if we have any concern, where should we address it? Do you have how can we reach you?
Are you asking like once it's open, operating, and there's a concern about noise or something?
Yes, I am sure there's gonna be a lot of noise there because of the children. I want to know if we complain about it, if you're gonna listen to us.
Like I've said before, as it relates to the noise concern, I just think there's with children playing in a playground, everybody, it's very subjective, what's loud, what's not loud, what's acceptable, what's not acceptable. I think we certainly, if there's an issue and we're causing an issue, then we would be welcome to discussing it and figuring out how to solve it to the best ability we could. But I can't stop children from laughing and playing on a playground.
All right, thanks, Drew. Okay, so we'll take one more question from the line, and then for comments we haven't been able to get to, we'll ask you to forward them to Commissioner Hans. And so Dominique, go ahead.
Yes, hi. I think one question nobody addressed was talked about being in the medical field. I mean, I'm an adult, and those emergency sirens on that intersection, they're very loud, and every 10 minutes there is a fire truck or an ambulance or a police car. So those children being exposed to the sirens on a daily basis for hours, that can be damaging to their ears. Did you take that into consideration?
Thank you, Dominique. Roger.
No, I can't say we did, but it sounds like the ambulances are gonna be louder than the kids if they're there that often.
All right. So I will just briefly kind of just scan the questions here to see if there's anything we haven't addressed yet. I see a lot of things in the Q&A that we have spoken to. Drew, one thing, and Raj, I think would be helpful if you could just, speak again to the specific safety measures that are being incorporated into the fence to allay concerns about traffic safety there. You mentioned bollards, so it sounds like you're sort of going above and beyond a standard fence to take those concerns into consideration. But if you could just emphasize that again for folks' knowledge, I think that would be good.
Yeah, ideally, that's what we would be doing. It's obviously still, all of this is subject to, DDOT and Public Space Committee. But we would be installing footings that are substantial, much larger than what you would have just for a typical fence. And then either some kind of larger steel posts that are connected to the rest of the fence that are concrete encased. We do this on government projects where there's a high security facility that needs some kind of barricade. And typically they're 6 foot on center and they run around the whole length of the fence. And so that's what we would be proposing here.
Okay, great. And in terms of this, folks mentioned concern about the proximity to the street. It's a fairly wide sidewalk, right? Do you know the setback from the curb? I'm guessing it's 8 or 10 feet.
Yeah, at least. Let me see if I can pull it up on the civil plan. But yeah, with Massachusetts Avenue, and it's 14 feet.
14 feet. Okay, so there's a pretty significant buffer there. Okay. All right. And folks, I'm scanning through the questions. A lot of these have been addressed. And I'm sorry we won't be able to get to every single one. I do have a question for Higher Ground. What plans are in place to make sure that the driveway to 400 Mass is not being used for pickup and drop off?
So this is something that had come up during the board meeting, and typically we have explicit communication that goes out to all the parents that they sign off on, that they understand, where the specific pickup and drop off areas are. Where we have had issues in the past, we have implemented a warning system, right? It could be anywhere from 1 to 3 warnings. And then if these parents continue to basically not abide by these rules, then their children basically, may be removed from enrollment altogether. So we take these, these parking and pickup and drop off concerns, very seriously. And if they become a nuisance, then we would have to obviously take certain measures.
Okay. Thanks, Raj. Okay, just in the interest of making sure we're hearing from everybody, I do see 2 remaining questions we'll take real quick. Start with Maria. I saw your hand first, and then Bernard, and then we're going to close off the questions after that. Maria, go ahead.
Yes. Hi. Yes, I would just like to emphasize that we are extremely concerned about Douglas making this decision for this particular business. We have talked about this among the owners, and the risks are enormous in terms of safety, in terms of hearing pollution, in terms of air pollution, in terms of liability for the building. I mean, I think it requires a much more thorough consideration of this decision. And secondly, I think that it has been downplayed the effect that it's going to have, the removal of dozens and dozens of mature bushes that complement the trees that are in the green area. That creates a true green area in that section of the street on Massachusetts Avenue and around 4th Street. So I would really, really underscore the need for a serious consideration of this decision that is going to be a long-term decision, and upon which we, the owners, do not have the recourse to change things once the decision has been made. So please take note of these comments. I cannot emphasize them enough.
Okay, thank you, Maria. I do want to remind folks that Cobb Park is coming soon. So we're going to have a very large publicly accessible green space just across the street from here. So I just want to remind folks of that. Bernard, last question is going to go to you. Go ahead. You can come off mute. Bernard, you're still on mute. Here, I'm going to try and unmute you. Bernard, just try one more time to unmute you. Otherwise, we're going to have to move on. All right, sorry about that. All right, so like I said, I know there's a lot of comments in the chat. I know we haven't been able to get to everything. Please continue to share those comments with Commissioner Hans, and we'll continue to talk with Drew and Raj. So I think to wrap up the question, so what is on the table tonight is Douglas is coming to us as the ANC requesting support for the public space permit that would allow the playground and the fence to proceed. Before we move into commissioner discussion, Drew and Raj, I just want to confirm our timeline for ANC input on the permit. Just mindful that we aren't meeting again until September.
We would expect to be in front of the Public Space Committee before your September meeting. Okay. So it would be great to get feedback and support today if you so choose to do so.
Okay. All right. Appreciate that. All right. So Drew and Raj, I'm going to just move you back to attendee while the commission discusses. If we have to ask you a question, we'll bring you back over. All right, so as Drew just pointed out, they're anticipating to be before the Public Space Committee before our September meeting. So we had planned to vote on the permit tonight. So I think our options are to continue with that plan, or if folks feel like we need more time, we could do a special meeting in August, although I hate to eat into our recess. I will say, and I appreciate the concerns that folks have raised. I just want to be serious here about what the proposal is. This is a daycare. We're not, looking to put like a nuclear power plant or a trash dump on the side of Mass Ave. I appreciate the concerns, you know, but I'm mindful that we live in the center of a major metropolitan city. We live in a mixed use neighborhood. And I think the benefit to having more childcare in the neighborhood when childcare costs are extremely exorbitant in the District of Columbia, in my opinion, is a benefit to the community. I know many folks on the line are going to disagree with me, but that's sort of my opinion. So I want to open it up to commissioners for discussion. One of if we would like to proceed with a motion tonight, or if we need more time for consideration, and any other thoughts you'd like to share. Commissioner Prince, go ahead.
Sure.
Folks, just raise your hand, folks, so we can.
I'll jump in. I agree with you that a daycare is a valuable thing. It's a plus in the neighborhood. I mean, a lot of people are against a lot of things. I'm actually surprised that people are against a daycare. I can understand being against a jail. I can understand easily being against a cannabis retailer, a liquor store, and other things like that. Daycare kind of caught me by surprise, but I do hear those concerns. And so I think it would be good to try to address them better. While I still think daycare is a good thing, and I'm inclined to support it, there are valid concerns about the traffic plan, particularly in front of on the Mass Ave side with the turnaround, with the Pudo, where that could probably be resolved by a bump out at the corner. And with the landscaping plan, and perhaps there is some kind of noise dampening that could be put overhead. I don't know. It just occurred to me thinking about it, but that is, also, I mean, it's a noisy spot. I live across the street essentially, or practically, just kitty corner. This is a noisy intersection here, 3rd and Mass, 4th and Mass. You've got the tunnel entrance and all that, a lot of emergency vehicles. Kids during working hour, I mean, that's not so much a problem, although I do sympathize for people who work from home. I can tell you we have pretty good windows here, and I don't think that I would be bothered by that. But those are my observations. I think there needs to be some improvement to the plan. But otherwise, I don't have a problem with a daycare. And I can tell you, I am one who has a toddler at home. I have a grandson living with me, and he goes to a daycare, and it's almost a mile away. And twice a week, I walk him over and bike the other direction.
All right, thanks, Commissioner Prince. Appreciate that. I saw Commissioner Abu Khalaf's hand next. Go ahead.
Yeah, I emphasize that this caught me by surprise. I think I have a question, and maybe Raj, someone else can answer it. Is it because I'm not familiar with this split in ownership between condo owners and then the retail space or the commercial space? So I don't know if there's like a legal or non-legal agreement about coordination regarding renting the retail space. If not, then like any other commercial space would be used. I don't know if this was like the typical process of like coordinating with all the owners or not. So I'm curious to know if this had happened in the past when it was rented to the CVS or there was no opposition, so it went smoothly.
Yeah, I brought Drew back. Drew, if you can speak to that question.
I honestly can't say. I have not been super close to the activity in the building when CVS was there. But I do know CVS, I'm almost positive it was open close to 24 hours a day. And somebody else brought it up, I believe it was a resident, Mr. Moore, talking about the challenges they had with CVS, given that it was open 24 hours a day, given that it doesn't necessarily invite the best clientele day to day. And you know, in that case, you've got people parking in a roundabout to run into CVS to grab something that we have no allegiance to and no control, really, truly no control over. I think that a school is just it's a far superior use and for the community, inviting to the community. You know, the traffic control concern, I really, the entrance to the building is on the other side. There isn't going to be a back entrance that people are going to be able to go through during pickup and drop off hours because it is a secure facility. I know myself, I had kids that were younger at this time, at this ages in Capitol Hill, and the daycare we dropped off at, they were very, very, very secure, focused on who's dropping them off, how they're signing them in, and you go through one door and out one door. You don't go in and out multiple different doors. It's too much of a risk when it comes to the security of the kids. So I'd be really surprised if people are parking to then walk all the way around the block, literally around the entire block, to then drop their kid off. I don't think that's going to be as big of an issue as it's being portrayed to be. But no, it's legally speaking, we own the retail and we have rights to make these decisions as far as what we believe is the highest and best use for that. We are certainly open. We've been meeting with condo association members. And like I said, we own buildings all over the city. We constantly try to be the best neighbors that we can be. But we also understand and appreciate that we can't always meet the needs of every single person in a very dense and populous city like DC.
Thanks, Drew. Appreciate that. All right. So, Commissioner Forrest, go ahead.
Yeah, I kind of, the other commissioners more or less covered what I wanted to say, but I think more daycare is good. I don't personally have a child myself, but I know a couple people who do, and childcare is wildly expensive. More is better. That's already a busy, loud intersection. Children don't make that much noise, frankly. They're not that loud. I think some of the traffic concerns have some validity to them, but I think overall sounds like a net benefit for the community.
Thank you. Commissioner Hans, I saw your hand, and then Commissioner Carson.
Yeah, I was just thinking. Oh yeah, I was gonna say firstly. Yeah, this did not catch me by surprise at all. I had somebody slip a note into my apartment about this. So what I was thinking is maybe, and I hate to do this also, kind of like what you mentioned, is why don't we table this to August and do a special session just because there's so much input and it's pretty mixed kind of from what I'm seeing. That's what I would suggest for right now. I want to throw that out there.
All right.
As much as I don't want to do that.
I'd rather not. I think, we can consider also part of our resolution being, contingent upon a commitment from Douglas to address some of the remaining concerns. But so we can discuss that. But Commissioner Carson, I saw your hand, and then Commissioner Blackson.
Hello guys. I think the daycare is really needed in the area. I do understand how it can get it can get very loud within our community there. But I think that the daycare and the playground is a great idea.
All right. And Commissioner Blackson?
Just to piggyback off things that most of the commissioners said, I too believe that a daycare is needed in the community, that's a great idea to have a daycare. Also with the playground, some of the other things do stand that safety first, just more discussion on safety, and I'm in agreement with the playground and daycare coming to the area.
Okay. All right, so it sounds like broadly folks are supportive with some concerns. So I think we have basically the two options. One is to table to a special meeting. Of course, we would need to make sure we have a quorum available at some point in August. And my personal preference, not to sway anybody, would be to take action tonight, but build in to our resolution an opportunity to continue this discussion about some of the specific concerns prior to Douglas's appearance at the Public Safety Committee. I'm sorry, the Public Space Committee in September. Commissioner Hans, I know this is in your SMD, so you're welcome to respond to that.
Yeah, I really think it's better to wait, as much as I really don't want to do it, but people have been really passionate. And I was in that meeting when they came to our board meeting, and there was a lot of passion. So I agree with what a lot of you guys have said. I just think we need a little bit more time. That's all. So as much as I don't want to do it, but I just think it's the right thing to do, and I think it makes the most sense for right now.
Okay. What I'm going to go ahead and do then. Oh, go ahead, Commissioner Forrest.
Can I ask Commissioner Hans a question? Out of curiosity, what would that time be used for?
I think it would
Is
be
it just to come have another discussion in August, or is there some process that's going to happen between now and
I think it
August?
also gives us a little bit more time to process the concerns and then also see if there's other ones. So that's why I suggest giving us a little bit more time. Because there's also a little bit of follow-up, it seems like, that needs to be done based on some of the questions, right? So maybe we can get some more answers by then at least, which is why I suggest that.
Okay. So what I'm going to propose is that we just do a quick straw poll of whether we think we should consider this tonight or table to a special meeting in August. So folks could just come off camera for a second for the vote, or come on camera for a second for the vote. Commissioner Abuklaf, did you want to add something before we do that?
Yeah, I think it's important to differentiate between blank opposition, or is this time going to be taken to address some of the concerns to move forward with the process, but then, address these concerns about traffic safety, noise, etc. Because it seems like there's a lot of blank opposition to the use of this space as a daycare. And I don't know how extending the vote for another month would change that. This is my concern about it.
Okay. All right, so I'm going to do, we'll just do a quick straw poll because I realize we're also quite a bit behind schedule and we have another topic that won't be contentious at all coming up. So I will start. So the two options are table to August to a special meeting to give us a little more time to follow up on concerns, or proceed tonight with a motion. So I'll start with those in favor of tabling to August. Say aye. And this is just a straw poll. This is not a formal vote.
Aye.
Okay. One for tabling. This is to table to a special meeting in August. Okay. So one vote to table, and then to proceed with a resolution tonight.
Aye.
All right.
Aye.
So I hear Commissioner Blackson, Commissioner
Aye.
Forrest, Commissioner Carson,
You got me, aye.
and Commissioner Rogers. All right, I'm going to say go ahead and proceed tonight. Commissioner Hans?
I was to table it, and that was my
Oh,
vote.
I'm sorry.
Sorry, you didn't hear me. Sorry, that was my bad.
All right. Okay, so I guess we're proceeding tonight. So my suggestion for that would be that, we can include in that we expect further conversations to occur between Higher Ground and Douglas and the condo board to address the specific concerns. So I think my suggestion is that we stipulate that as a condition of our approval for the permit. Do folks have concerns about that?
Is it a timeline that we're giving them?
We can put a specific timeline, and that's a good idea.
How will we know that the condition has been met? This is the thing. We can't expect that all of the concerns will be satisfied, but they can be discussed. So the big picture things, I think we need to see. I would like to see another stab at greater definition that in the traffic plan. It doesn't need a tremendous amount more, but something more than just 3 spots for Pudo, and that people cannot enter the daycare from the Massachusetts Avenue side, but they could drive their cars into the turnaround. So we want to sort of eliminate that possibility. And then there's some concern about a loading dock and parking garage and so forth. And then, the noise thing, that's realistic. Yeah, kids make noise, but something concerning that, some greater definition as to the sort of the load on the playground, and then the aesthetics, the landscaping plan. That's very important.
Okay.
And safety barriers outside of the gate of the daycare for a car cannot run up.
Yeah, then there's the issue of the bollards and the aesthetics of the bollards. I think that's a valid safety concern, particularly on the Mass Ave side. And then there's the bus traffic on the H Street side, as well as I could envision people wanting to make U-turns from the eastbound H Street to pull into Pudo in the west facing H Street, and other issues that might need to be considered.
My concern would be the traffic. Daycare center there, it sounds like a great idea to do. I mean, hey, kids, like you said, kids make noise. I'm a grandfather and a great grandfather. I love children, but the safety, when you go to the safety part of it, Massachusetts Avenue ain't no toy. People speed up and down there, right? And I'm kind of afraid that somebody might crash into the barrier where they talk about putting the park, and it just that's the part that don't sit right with me.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Okay.
But as far as the daycare center, I mean, it's a good idea.
All right, thanks, Commissioner Rogers. All right, so Dale, I appreciate that, and I'm sorry, Commissioner Prince, I appreciate that, and my suggestion to ensure that there is some accountability, I would suggest that we ask Douglas Development and Higher Ground to commit to fleshing out these plans and having another meeting with the condo board in the next 30 days, and that we don't submit our support until that meeting has occurred. Does that seem appropriate?
Yeah, I was just actually reading in the Q&A here some of the points. Could you repeat that? Because I was just playing with some limitations on the outdoor usage, whether that's possible, but go ahead.
I think that those points are well taken. I think there are 3 concerns around the traffic plan, potential need for noise mitigation, and the landscaping plan. My suggestion is that we pass a resolution calling on Douglas, and we can't force them, but calling on Douglas and Higher Ground to commit to another meeting with the condo board to address those specific concerns within the next 30 days. And that our submitting support for this permit is contingent upon that meeting happening.
Yeah, I would also like to put before Higher Ground for their response, not here, but in future discussions, is the outdoor play area really essential? There are daycares that don't have them. Or can there be can it be somehow scaled back, usage scaled back or limited or made smaller, so something like that. I just want a little bit more discussion on that point.
Okay, great. All right, so we can work out the exact language if folks are comfortable with that general approach. And I guess Commissioner Hans, this is your SMD, so does that approach sound reasonable?
Does sound reasonable, yeah. It does.
Okay.
But I'm likely going to abstain.
Okay. All right, so I guess I'll go ahead and make the motion. So I move that ANC 6E send a letter to, I'm sorry, how do I want to phrase this? I motion that ANC 6E support the proposal for a public space permit contingent upon Douglas Development and Higher Ground committing to a meeting with the 400 Massachusetts Avenue Condo Association within the next 30 days, and that meeting address specific concerns raised regarding the traffic plan, noise mitigation, and the landscaping plan. Do I have a second?
I second.
All right, I think I heard Commissioner Blackson first. So Commissioner Hart moved and Commissioner Blackson seconded that ANC 6E support the public space permit contingent upon the meeting with condo residents as discussed. All those in favor, please vote aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Actually,
Aye.
Okay. Sorry, so Commissioner Hans, that was an aye?
Yeah, that's an aye. I think about it more tonight.
Okay. Commissioner Forrest, I didn't catch your vote.
Aye.
All right, so the motion passes 8 ayes, 0 nays. Commissioner Hans, we should talk about what the specific language of that looks like, and then we'll have to have a follow-up conversation with Drew and Raj. All right, well, I appreciate everyone's thoughtfulness in approaching that. Certainly appreciate all the concerns that were raised by constituents, and hopefully that this is a path forward that can address some of those concerns, and we'll work offline to move this forward. So thanks all. I recognize we're quite a bit behind schedule, and I want to apologize for that. We will now move into the Department of General Services presentation on the special exception request for the proposed central cell block at 501 New York Avenue. I know we have quite a few folks that are going to be presenting, so if you could raise your hand, I'll move you over to panelists. I see Ajay, I see Meredith. I'm not sure who else is joining or if we've lost folks given the hour. I'm going to let folks be able to come on camera. And Commissioner Abuklaf, if you, oh, great, thank you.
Good evening. How are you? Can you hear us?
Yes, thank you. Oh, I see we have a few folks in the room.
Yes.
Welcome. So who do we have in the room?
Good evening. My name is Michelle Wilson. I'm the Deputy Director of Administration at the DC Department of Corrections.
And I'm Alam Al-Alami, Operations Manager, DGS Capital Construction.
Jay Hargrove, Executive Program Manager, DGS Capital Construction.
Welcome all. And I think we have a few other folks. I know we have Meredith, if you want to introduce yourself.
Thank you so much, Commissioner. Meredith Moldenhauer, Land Use Council from Cozen O'Connor.
Great. And I saw John. I'm not sure if that's John Stokes or if that's someone else.
It is John Stokes. Good evening, Commissioner. John Stokes, Associate Director, External Affairs for the Department of General Services.
Great. All right. Well, thank you all so much for being here tonight. I apologize that we're running behind schedule, but I'll turn it over to you for presentation. And then we'll take some time for questions from commissioners and constituents. So please take it away. Oh, and just give us a cue for next slide, and we'll move it along. Thanks.
Absolutely. Good evening again. My name is Michelle Wilson. I'm the Deputy Director of Administration at the District of Columbia Department of Corrections. I'm here along with DGS and our counsel from Cozen O'Connor to discuss the Central Cell Block temporary swing space move to 501 New York Avenue. It is an honor and a pleasure to be here this evening. And we are going to just move through the presentation and we'll be available for some questions at the end. Next slide.
All right, I'll take it from here. Good evening, commissioners. Good evening, Sharon, Chris, and everyone on the call. Again, we'll move quickly here. So on the agenda, we're going to be providing a project background. We're going to talk about the existing 501 New York Avenue background itself. We're going to talk about the existing central cell booking operation and challenges at the existing location at Daly. We're going to talk about how DOC plan to operate at the 501 location. We're going to present to you site plans for 501, building views and existing conditions. We're going to give you a summary of high-level summary on the planned 501 renovations. And also we're going to be discussing a new funded project to address the permanent CCB at Daly. Then we're also going to talk about timelines for both the Daly building, the permanent CCB at Daly, and the schedule for the 501 renovations. Then our council will discuss the special exception. That's why we're here tonight. Then we'll move to questions and answers. Next slide, please. So the project to relocate the CCB from Daly to 501 is a sub-project of a larger project that we call it the Daly Swing Project. The Daly Swing Project was funded initially in 2019, and it does provide for temporary solutions to the current tenant at Daly building. Basically, two entities. One is the MPD headquarters, and we're swinging them out to Marion Berry building, previously known as 1 Judiciary Square, and then moving the CCB again temporary swing out to the 501 location. Again, the project is BRM 18C Daly MPD building swing. The two tracks, just in a little bit more details. Again, moving the MPD next door to Marion Berry. This project is pretty much completed. We started this project almost 18 months ago. We actually, MPD, were able to activate their JOC, the Joint Operation Command and Control Center, for the recent NATO summit in DC. So they activated in July 24. We probably move them fully out of the building in the next 4-6 weeks out of Daly. Track 2 is this project, which is the Department of Corrections Central Cell Block temporary swing into 501. Just some background, the project was awarded in January 2024. Abatement work was completed. And then when we went to the first BZA appeal in March 2024, and based on some of the deliberations at the hearing, DGS issued a stop work order to the contractor, and that stop work order was extended recently, by another 90 days. If we can go next slide, please. Some background on 501. It's a 1930s building with 1960s addition. The building is the only building that meets the criteria in the DC inventory for this planned usage. It has the proximity to the courthouse. It has a matching central cell booking infrastructure. What we mean by that is it has existing holding cells and also has an existing Sallyport. And we'll have more to talk about those. But Sallyport is basically a covered area where you could bring a van and detainees could load, offload in full privacy from the surrounding. Also, the site is centrally located within the district for MPD operational requirement, and the site required the least amount of capital investment. The existing building has 19 operation holding cells, and again, existing Sally Port. The building itself, it's not historic in the historic register, but it is part of historical district. But again, it's not on the historic register. Construction activities will generally be maintained within the building itself, so within the walls of the building. And again, there will not be much happening on the exterior of the building. Next slide, please.
So as we move forward, I'll take it from here to talk about existing CCB operation challenges at the Daily Building. As Mr. Al-Alami has already indicated, the Daily Building is in the process of being closed due to a need for an extensive renovations. So we are dealing with an aging facility with aging infrastructure, which includes failing HVAC, electrical and plumbing system issues, ADA issues, water infiltration, flooding, environmental issues, to include mold and chronic pest control issues, all of which we have employees of the district and also residents of the district having to deal with when they are taken to the central cell block. Next slide, please. To give you an idea of what CCB operations, what we're looking at New York Avenue, it will serve as 501 New York Avenue will serve as a temporary home for the central cell block for initial arrestees from MPD or other law enforcement agencies. Individuals or arrestees are typically at the facility no more than 12 to 24 hours. But CCB will be a 24/7, 365-day-a-year operation with correctional officers always present at the site. Overnight detainees are transported to court in the morning, and detainees are received by from MPD districts on a daily basis and then taken to court. The Department of Corrections has committed to making, as part of our protocols and procedures, no releases will be made from 501 New York Avenue. And we will be working to limit loading activity that takes place at the facility. Next slide.
Roger.
Next slide. So we're going to walk through some of the images and plans. So this slide is just illustrating the site where we are located. We have 6th Street to the west, New York Avenue to the south, 5th Street to the east, and L Street to the north. We can go to the next slide. Some more views. We're looking straight on. The general view is straight on from New York Avenue. Right across the street, looking from the east, is across from 5th Street. And then the last view on the bottom is a view from L Street looking onto the property. Next slide. So this is the existing Sally Port. This is the portion of the facility that arrestees will be brought into. They will be secured in this facility. The doors will be locked at the front and the back, and then they will be escorted into the building out of view from the public. Next slide, please. So as mentioned, this facility was selected because of the infrastructure that's in place. So these are images of the existing cells these cells will be renovated to meet new standards. Next slide, please. These are more images of the existing cells that will be renovated. Next slide. So just the overview of the scope. As noted earlier, the abatement has been completed. We will be renovating 19 existing cells. We'll be constructing 27 new cells for a total of 85 beds. So it'll be 46 cells in total. We will be upgrading all of the interior systems and infrastructure, including the building security, all of the MEP infrastructure, let me not abbreviate, mechanical, electrical, and plumbing infrastructure. And we will also be installing new sound abatement measures for sound attenuation through the cells. We will be renovating on the second floor, which is primarily admin space. On the exterior, we're limiting the activity on the exterior. We'll be making sure the roof is repaired, touching up any brick and windows, and we will be doing all new doors and site fencing. Next slide, please. So this is the first level. The arrestees will come into the Sally port. To the right of your screen, they will be processed. And after processing, they will be taken to a holding cell, which is the main part of the building. Next slide, please. These are the additional basement cells that we'll be constructing. Once DOC has the operations in order, they'll disseminate arrestees as they need to. We have some special cells and we have some handicap cells. Next slide, please. And this is the final number of cells that we'll be constructing. Next slide, please. As noted before, this is the second level. This is primarily administrative. So we have our offices and locker rooms for the officers that will be residing here. Next slide, please. And as part of the fencing study, these are some of the images that we've taken from around the neighborhood that we're using to come up with solutions for the final design for the fencing around the facility. Next slide.
All right, I'll take it from here again. So what you see in front of you, this is a new project that the council and the administration added. This is to address the permanent CCB renovation at Daly. As Deputy Director Wilson, mentioned on the existing, conditions. So again, the idea of the whole renovation project and the swing is again, move MPD out, move the CCB out because of the deplorable conditions of the building, then again, renovate. So this project is only address the CCB area of the building. And again, it's included in the 2025 to 2030 budget. The council already voted and approved this, and this should be showed up on the budget book once it's released. So again, it provides funding from FY26 through FY29 for a total of $22 million. And again, I'm not going to read the project description, but basically it's specifically to address, again, the space there, and as we move the residents out to the swing side, then at the end, we'll bring them back. And that will take us to the next slide, please, which is discussing the schedule timeline. So again, based on those approval allotment in the years as was exhibited on the previous slide, this will kind of dictate for us to procure a schedule. So basically, we need to procure and award the AE design services in first quarter to second quarter of 2026. Then the design phase itself will proceed between the third quarter of 26 to the second quarter of 27. Again, these quarters are all fiscal. Then we go to permitting between the second and third quarter of 27. Next thing is we'll move to procure the construction services at the Daily for the permanent. Between the third quarter, it'll take us about 90 days, 120 days between third quarter to first quarter 2028. And that would land us on a construction award. And again, by 2028, there would be enough allotment available, to the project to commence construction. Construction is anticipated to be around 30 to 36 months, about 3 years. That would take us from first quarter 2028 to the third quarter 2030. Usually when you build facilities, as such, there is a very detailed, testing and activation phase. And that also includes training for DOC officers on new, security systems and measures. So that's scheduled for 60 days and will span between, or will cross, from the third quarter of 2030 to the first quarter, to the fourth quarter of 2030, third and fourth. Then, so that would be the end of construction of the permanent. Then the next two milestones will tie back, from the 501. So in fourth quarter 2030, we'll be moving back the operations from the swing site 501 back to the permanent location in 2030. And then 501 will be vacated, in the first quarter of 2031. Again, this is a new project. I think when we came here last year, that project was not even discussed, was not even on the books. So we're very excited, to have this project. Next slide, please. So can try to mesh both schedules. So again, this is the 501 schedule itself. Of course, the design was completed November 22. We had the permit issued in November 23. Simultaneously, we were going through the bidding process for the IFB, and we took bids in November 2023. We moved the MPD tenants between November 23 to January 24. They moved to a leased building at 2850 New York Avenue, where in the past 10, 12 years, a lot of MPD operations kind of been consolidating on that space. That allowed us to award the construction in January 24. The original duration was 14 months from that date, so that would have dictated a completion in March 2025. Then we went through the BZA appeal, the hearing and then the second hearing. So again, that happened in March, and then the decision, came in May 1st. Basically, based on the decision, we kind of issued, or during, we kind of issued a stop work order to the general contractor initially in March 2024. And as I mentioned earlier, we extended it through August, and most likely we probably will be extending it again since our hearing is not till September. The BZA special exception case, again, that's why we're here tonight. That's already based on the filing from June 2024, expecting to get to the end of it in October 2024. And then depending on the outcome, if the outcome is for the project to continue, while we did address some of the abatement, in the early construction before we stopped work, that's not going to reduce the overall construction duration, because we did have demobilization, that we're going to have remobilization. So we expect that the 14 months would still be needed. That would take us from October 2024 to December 2026. Again, the same testing and activation and training activities for 2 months for the staff and the officers. Then this will clear the way for the DOC to move the CCB from daily to 501 in March 2026. The daily building will be vacated in March 2026. And then the last milestone ties to the schedule from the last slide is when the temporary swing ends. So basically this dictates that the swing site will be used for about 5 years. Next slide, please. Okay, I'll turn it over to Meredith.
Thank you very much. And so, as indicated, we're here this evening to focus in on the BZA application. The BZA application that we're seeking to discuss today is special exception relief to enlarge an existing conforming large-scale government use. The property is located in the D4R zone, which is a high-density downtown mixed-use zone. We believe that, and as we've articulated in our filing, that the case does satisfy the special exception standard, that the use would be, and the enlargement of the use would be in harmony with the general purpose and intent of the zoning regulations and the zoning map. This proposed use is permitted by special exception, and the proposed use would be permitted by right under the ZR 58 regulations, which it was first established. There's also the requirement that it will not tend to adversely impact the use of neighboring property owners according to the zoning regulations and map. And we believe that the limited number of detainees typically held for less than 24 hours will have a limited impact, especially limited impact on traffic, and that can be mitigated based on additional requirements and work that we will do. There would be obviously additional construction, which has already been discussed, that would provide noise dampening and security features that would also mitigate or address any concerns, and that there would be no structural expansion of the existing building. So based on this, we believe that we satisfy the special exception condition and are happy to engage with the ANC on the special exception standard.
I think that concludes our presentation. Thank you for listening, everyone, and we're open for questions and answers.
All right. Well, thanks very much. Appreciate the comprehensive presentation. And thanks, Meredith, for the summary at the end. I do just want to remind people that the issue on the table before the ANC tonight is ANC 6. So although the proposed location of the central cell block is 501 New York Avenue, which is in ANC 2G, because ANC 6E is directly adjacent to that parcel, we are considered an affected ANC for the purposes of the BZA, and so the ANC has an opportunity to weigh in on the special exception. And as folks may be aware, the BZA is required to give great weight to ANC comments. So the issue on the table tonight for the ANC is whether or not to take a position for or against the special exception. So just want to give that context as we begin the conversation. I know commissioners have questions. I will defer this time. I don't need to start every time. Commissioner Blackson, I believe, has some questions. Commissioner Blackson, go ahead. And then other folks, please raise your hand. And we'll go with commissioners first.
Okay, good evening. My concern is there a traffic plan in place? I know this plan has been underway for a couple of years and I haven't heard anything about the traffic plan. That's one question.
So we are.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Meredith. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was just going to say that we do have a plan in regards to how we will mobilize. As we indicated, we will be coordinating amongst different MPD jurisdictions to ensure that we only have one vehicle coming into the Sally Port at a time to provide that security and that access. We are currently, we did receive some questions from ANC 2G in regards to questions about the transportation requirements. So we are following up on that, and we'll be getting back to the community on some of those more details.
So where's the plan? Is it something that we can see, that the public can see?
At the end of the day, I will say that we will do as much as we can to provide information about the effects of if there are any effects to traffic. But as Meredith has indicated, we are planning to work with MPD. We are working with MPD to ensure that we limit the impact of traffic in the neighborhood as much as possible. But if you're asking if we're going to give you a detailed plan of the in and out within the facility, quite honestly, we are not, for safety and security reasons, going to be able to give you full in and out details within the facility as to movement within the facility, in and out of the facility. And I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead. You can finish.
No, and when I say that, it's like if we are coordinating activity with MPD as to drop off times or pick up times, we're not going to be able to give that information out to the community, again, for safety and security reasons.
Right. I wouldn't expect to know, any detainee facility that times people are traveling in and out of a facility. I don't think that type of information would be released. But being that New York Avenue is very, very busy, and you'll have employees and everyone coming in and out, the detainees, the police, I would think that it would be some type of traffic plan or plan that shares to the residents in this community what is actually, how it's going to go. I think that plan should be detailed in there. That's my one. That was one of my questions. And the other concern is, I noted that you all said that no detainees will be released. Is that legally binding? Because I know that also was a compromise letter sent in reference to releasing the detainees from that facility, from that location.
Director Faust, who unfortunately could not be here this evening, our position, his position, agency's position, is that no detainees will be, as part of our release protocols, no detainees will be released from 501 New York Avenue. So that will be within our written protocols, as it relates to the facility and the property. Once we're there, so that is our plan. And that is the procedures and the protocols that we and the staff will follow at 501 New York Avenue.
So that's a legally binding document that will happen, right?
I think the question is, we are the applicants here in a Board of Zoning adjustment case. We are telling you what the agency intends to do, the same way if someone was telling you this is what the applicant intends to do. If there are requests to have the board condition something on a specific requirement, that's obviously something the ANC can request, and the board can determine whether they are legally able to do that. But we're really talking right now in the context of the Board of Zoning adjustment.
Got it. So it's not legally binding.
Yeah, I think the question is still valid. Like, what is the guarantee that the detainees will be released from the courthouse and not 501 New York Avenue? Sorry to jump in, Commissioner Blackson.
Or we have said that this is the director's policy, and this is what will be part of the policy for the application.
The
The
agency's
property.
It will be the agency's policy as signed off by the director, that no detainees will be released from 501 New York Avenue. I will also say that prior to the pandemic, detainees were not released from CCB. So we are working with our agency partners to resume those operations as they were prior to COVID. So prior to 2020, no detainees were released from CCB. And so that it is our intent and to work with our agency partners to go back to those pre-COVID conditions, but we are not going to be releasing anyone from 501 New York Avenue. That is the agency's position and policy on that.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions, Commissioner Blackson? I saw Commissioner Abu Khalaf's hand next. Okay, Commissioner Abu Khalaf, go ahead.
Yeah, I just have two quick questions. Could you explain the zoning request? You said enlargement of an existing, confirming large-scale government use. So for folks who are not very familiar with zoning terms, could you explain what is the request? And also, I have a concern about some residents in 6E not being duly noted about the zoning case, and there were requests about postponing the zoning case because of that. Could you also expand on that or explain it a little bit? Thank you.
Sure, I'll take the last one first and then go to the type of relief. So there were questions regarding the 200-foot notice. That notice is received from the Office of Tax and Revenue. We filed what was received from Office of Tax and Revenue in our application. As soon as we were informed by a filing that there were some questions about the comprehensive nature of the 200-foot notice, we did correct that, and we have resubmitted all of those notices, and the Office of Zoning has submitted notices to all individuals within 200 feet as it is required by the zoning regulations. So that has been remedied, and that has been remedied more than the required time period for notification of 200-foot participants. That answers that second question. Your first question was regarding what type of relief is this? So as I think referenced already, the property had obtained a building permit. The ANC 2G had challenged it. That during that appeal, it was noted and determined by the board that special exception relief was required and that the relief could not be obtained by right. And so we are seeking that special exception relief. The property is an existing conforming large-scale use as it was existing under ZR 58. We are looking to expand that use as we are not expanding it physically. On the outside, we are expanding it from a load capacity by increasing the number of beds.
Got it. Just one quick follow-up question. What is usually the required timeline between sending that notification for surrounding residents and then the zoning hearing? Is it usually like a 30-day period or?
45-day period is required.
Okay.
And
that has
more
been
than
met.
that. Yes, more than that has been met.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Commissioner Abuklaf, any other questions? All right, Commissioner Hans.
Thank you.
A quick question for you guys. I know one of the big concerns from the community is that, this jail could potentially make it unsafe, make the area unsafe. I was just curious to know, do you guys have any data around crime rates near the Daly building? Was it high or not really? Just curious to get your thoughts on that.
I do not have any crime rate information regarding the Daly building. The central cell block is not a jail. It is I will note that where the jail is at 1901 D and E Street, the property values are over $1 million. So just as a frame of reference, but I do not know what the crime data is at the Daly building.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, Deputy Director, could you clarify that point about the property values where?
At 1901 D and E Street, if you look in the surrounding area, Capitol Hill area over there, property values are $900,000+. So there are homes valued significantly over there. There's an apartment directly across the street from the central detention facility, which is a jail. And those apartments go for several $1,000s a month in rent. They continue to build in the Hill East development. Is it Hill East? Yes, Hill East development right across from where the jail is. This is the central cell block we are talking about, which is a limited holding facility, and where individuals will be transferred to court from the central cell block. They're there for 12 to 24 hours. And the longer amount of time is really those people who come in late on a Saturday and go to court on a Monday, and then they don't come back. So it is not a long-term or a jail facility. It is a place for arrestees who are held for a limited amount of time. It allows for the district to centralize court services. So we are able to transport on behalf of MPD so that officers are not held at district locations while holding and monitoring arrestees. Instead, they go to the central cell block where they are held for a brief amount of time and then transferred to court for hearings. And then if they are held for a longer period of time by the court, then they are transferred to the jail at 1901 D Street in Southeast. They do not go back to the central cell block.
Thank you for that clarification. Commissioner Hans, did you have further questions?
Yeah, me.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Go ahead, Commissioner Rogers, and then Commissioner Forrest.
Yeah, Commissioner Rogers here. I'd like to know, we live in a paranoid community. And that's that building is so close to where people live at.
Mm-hmm.
Have y'all ever thought of what can go wrong? If it was, you say it's not a jail, it's a holding cell. But what if you have a jail break and some inmates scattering all over the place, right? And your officers have to draw guns and weapons started shooting. What do y'all do then? I looked at that and I said, y'all asked every question, but what if the obvious happened? We looked at infrastructure. We looked at how much the building gonna cost. We looked at the plan and how nice the cell look on the inside. But what if something go wrong? What do y'all do?
Well, I understand your question, Commissioner, and thank you for it. I also live in a paranoid community, and so I understand what you're saying. I am a district resident as well. My response to that would be that we take every precaution, as we indicated. The building is monitored and will be monitored 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. We work very closely with the Metropolitan Police Department, MPD. They are our partners. This was Central Cell Block operations initially belonged to MPD, and DOC as a partner agency assumed control of the Central Cell Block again to allow officers to be out to do the work out in the community, and DOC has assumed control of the Central Cell Block. Since the District of Columbia Department of Corrections has assumed control of the Central Cell Block, I don't know the history of MPD, but since it's been under our control, the Central Cell Block, there have been no escapes at the Central Cell Blocks. So we do work on, we have planning, we have procedure, we have policies in place. Again, it is a 24/7 operation. We have worked very closely with our partners to work to ensure that we are operating within the requirements of a arrestee location, is a holding cell, and have all the requirements that are needed. Again, we have staff that is specially trained to work at the CCB. So I think we have done, and we think about those possibilities and all those things as part of our training and planning. And so that's something we do on an everyday basis. And our employees are required to go to yearly training. Some go to advanced training for various things. And so we keep that in mind as part of our work. But we are concerned about citizens in this community, in the location where the Central Cell Block is, where the jail is. So we work on that and we train on that on a consistent basis.
That's all
And
I have.
I'd also like to add that DGS, hired DLR. DLR is a leading architect firm in this field of detention facilities. They are actually, a national and international leader in this field. So again, there are things within the building systems and redundant systems and security systems, to help, to keep this a secure facility.
Thank you. Commissioner Rogers, additional questions?
That's it.
Okay, Commissioner Forrest.
My question is, this is, I think, something that some of the people are not going to bring up, who are going to ask for later. This is going to result in increased police presence in the neighborhood, correct? There's going to be more police around the Central Cell Block for security and just by nature of them bringing arrestees in, correct?
Essentially, yes.
Yes. That was my only question.
Thank you.
Commissioner Forrest, thank you. Other questions from commissioners? Commissioner Prince?
Thank you. Thank you for the presentation there. I am sympathetic to the need to provide adequate conditions for people who are temporary inmates or arrestees. I'm not sure what the terminology is. And it's regrettable that the daily building conditions have deteriorated. However, we kind of have to ask, how did that happen? And why should 2G, ANC 2G area and 6E absorb the consequences of that, which took place at a larger level in DC? I wonder, for example, if you're going to tear up part of a building and install new cells, that's a task that could be completed elsewhere in another part of town. It's not that much different, and you may have to add a little bit of infrastructure. It may not be as close to the Judiciary area, which, by the way, is my SMD. I represent Judiciary Square in downtown East and a little bit of Mount Vernon Triangle. So that is something that's really concerning, that, you know, that the Daily building is not suitable anymore. And because of whatever events led it to that condition, now the impact will be, or the brunt of that will be borne by 2G and 6E. That's what you're proposing. Are there any benefits for the immediate residents? There are benefits clearly for the district overall, but for those who live in the immediate vicinity, are there any benefits? And if not, why should they absorb this?
Well, let me just address some of those. And one, you know, as part of the special exception condition, you know, the selection process of the site, you know, whether it's located in your ANC or not, is not part of the special exception standard. And so, you know, while we understand that that's a question that, you know, the other agencies and you are asking, when we're talking specifically about the BZA standard, you know, that's not really part of what the board will be, you know, evaluating. We did hear already a question from one of your fellow commissioners about the increased potentially protection of the ANC with additional individuals. And I think you did already mention the fact that this will benefit the overall city as well as a large scale benefit to the city. I'd also just note that this is temporary as outlined by DGS and DOC in our presentation. You know, this is a swing space and not, you know, a permanent proposed location. Thank you.
If I could follow up. Yeah, well, temporary, but 5 years is a pretty long time. But I note that. What would actual sort of inbound traffic and outbound traffic look like? Inbound traffic, if I understand the purpose of this central cell block, is to receive people who've just been picked up following the, you know, commission of a crime, and they are accused. And so that could happen anytime, day or night. And would that be a delivery with that's going to be a police vehicle? Will it have lights? Will it have sirens? Could there be multiple vehicles at once? And then I noted in some of the papers we received in advance that the outbound traffic will be vans departing once a day, and then maybe food deliveries. So give us an idea about the sort of the traffic flow, the frequency, and other people who might come and go as well, law enforcement or whatever. Talk about that a little bit, please.
Would you like me to take that one, Meredith? Oh, I think she might have frozen.
Oh, I think she.
Are we frozen?
No, so hopefully we can get Meredith back, but Deputy Director.
I think she's saying something.
You're breaking up, Meredith.
Meredith, we have a bad connection. If you could reconnect, if you can hear us.
Oh.
But Deputy Director Wilson, I think you started to answer.
Yes. Oh, Meredith, were you going to say something?
Sorry about that. I think I was frozen and then I got kicked off. I don't know. Was that question answered?
No, I was about to, but I thought you were going to say something, so I stopped.
Sorry, technical difficulty. I literally got kicked out and brought back in. No, I was just going to say that you know, there will be employees at the site that will be, you know, traveling to and from the site. We did indicate that, you know, we will have MPD vehicles that will be bringing detainees. There would be one food truck delivery, and then there would be the early morning transportation via van of existing detainees to the courthouse. And so, as I think also requested by Commissioner Blackson, in regards of what we can provide from a security perspective, you know, we will be, you know, supplementing some of this information to the commission. Thank you.
Can I ask for clarification here? The arrivals, where are these people coming from? Are they coming from local, like precinct stations? Are they coming from the site where they were picked up outside? And how does that work?
They're coming from, typically coming from police district location. So someone is arrested and then is first taken to the district. And then from the district is brought to CCB.
And does that go on around the clock?
Yes, except for during court movement time. So there are certain times when
Okay, so conceivably someone could be brought in the middle of the night, 2 a.m.
Conceivably, yes.
Yeah, and then the garage door will open up and they would go in, and then after the passenger is discharged, the garage door opens the other side and the vehicle would leave.
Yes.
Is there a possibility that might be a disruptive noise for neighbors?
The garage door opening and closing?
Just wondering.
I don't
Yes.
have an answer to that question. I haven't listened to the garage door open and closing, so I can't answer that question. But we'll certainly check it out.
Yeah. And if there were a medical emergency on site, then obviously the emergency vehicles would have to come over. All right, so let me see what else I have here. I just wonder, could you talk, how is this compatible with a residential area? There are townhouses right there. There are condos across the street, right in the neighborhood within this 200-foot radius. Is this compatible with that, do you think? And why?
And if I can add to Commissioner Prince's question, there's also a daycare directly across the street. And, we're in close proximity to the convention center and many other uses that don't seem to be compatible with this use.
So this is a downtown zone. The downtown D zone is a high density commercial zone that is compatible with this use. The zoning regulations obviously permit this use by special exception. Special exception uses are uses that are deemed to be acceptable in the zone, subject to approval by the Board of Zoning Adjustment. So based on that, it's also located off of New York Avenue, which is one of our largest right of ways, which obviously then would create a substantial separation on some sides of the property.
Thank you. Not really persuaded by that, because I can think of parts of town that have sort of more industrial type uses, which would seem to be better candidates for this type of activity, although they may be farther away from the courthouse. Do you have any observations to share on the possibility of other spaces? I noted in the briefing papers, or the papers that we received, that the alternative that was presented was only sort of local police stations for temporary holding with burdens on staffing and so forth. But surely there must be another alternative to build in another building, another existing building. And has that been considered, and are there candidates? Perhaps DGS could answer to that, or corrections.
So if the question is, have we considered other alternative sites? The answer is yes, we have. And to satisfy all of the requirements for this, for the use of the central cell block, 501 New York Avenue is the best and most ideal site.
Follow up. Sorry.
Well, yes, I get you that they're best, but did you find others that could have been acceptable?
No.
So all alternatives were discarded as unacceptable?
Yes.
So there's not a single other building in the District of Columbia that could potentially be a candidate for this. I guess what specific criteria were used to evaluate this that arrived?
I want to make sure. I just want to make sure that we focus in
that arrived
on
at a single location.
but I want to make sure that we're focusing in on the BZA relief, and we're almost at an hour now. And I want to make sure that individuals from the community are able to ask questions. You know, as we said, that this is the site selection is not part of the BZA process. And, you know, we want to ensure that we focus in on that standard.
But the site selection does have a bearing on the adverse effect that this could have for the neighboring properties.
It does
So
not
I
have
think I do think it's relevant.
there's nothing in the standard that would require that the board evaluate the site selection.
I understand that, but for our purposes, I think it would be helpful to understand why this site is the single solitary site when it is clearly not compatible. You know, it may have been when it was grandfathered into the 58 zoning code, but the use of this neighborhood has changed significantly since then.
Meredith, we're losing you. Meredith, we can't understand what you're saying.
Text her, please.
Yeah.
Text her.
Meredith, your connection has gone out.
I may have to move.
Oh, there you go. I'm
All
sorry. We didn't hear you, Meredith. You were frozen.
Sorry, I apologize about that. No, I was just saying that, you know, I think that DGS and DOC have answered this in both the presentation and during this, our PowerPoint presentation does identify that this site is the one that was in their portfolio that met their criteria.
Thank you. I didn't mean to cut you off, Commissioner Prince, if you had anything additional. And then I do want to move to questions from constituents. Oh, sorry, Commissioner Prince. I think I caught you while you were transitioning. I didn't mean to cut you off if you had any.
Oh, yeah. No, I don't think I have any question, but I would like to mention to Meredith Moldenhauer that the discussion of alternative sites is relevant because the ANC will be expressing itself on this special exception. And the entire picture here of how we got to where we are is relevant. And that includes consideration of possible alternative sites. Even though it may not be under the BZA, it may not be in their decision process. Over.
And so I think the point stands, what other sites were considered, or was this the only site that was considered?
We looked through the district-owned portfolio, and because that is one of the primary considerations as to why this site was selected was based on the holding cells that it currently has, the use that the criteria that it met in terms of location, and then it is a district-owned property. I hope that answers your question.
Okay, thank you. All right, any other final questions from commissioners? I do have one. I do have one final question, and I'd like, you know, to hear from DGS and DOC. How can you justify that this location will not have an adverse impact on residents that live extremely close and a daycare as well? You know, I think back to the traffic plan, you know, what happens if multiple vehicles are coming at the same time? Like, where will vehicles queue? Where will employees park? You know, as Commissioner Blackson pointed out, New York Avenue is already extremely congested. And so I don't think we fully answered, you know, those considerations.
So I guess the easiest way I can think, as the District of Columbia Department of Corrections is 1 million square feet of walkable space just within its the two main correctional facilities alone, the Central Detention Facility and the Correctional Treatment Facility. Those are our main plants. However, in addition to that, we have and we continue to operate within the community as part of the work that we do. So we have the central cell block that we currently manage, which is on at the Daily Building. In addition to that, we also have a training facility that is within the community, In addition to that, we also operate our Ready Center, which is our reentry programming, which is in the community in Ward 8. So we have a footprint that is spread out. Quite honestly, typically for our operations, we don't, except for I think the Ready Center, which is something where we want community members to come in and be a part of the daily operations. We don't typically advertise. We won't be placing any signs out that says CCB is here. We just will be doing the day-to-day operations internally that are required for central cell block operations and moving folks, again, assisting the district MPD with holding arrestees, transporting them to court, and then either releasing or then transporting them to the jail. So our goal and our aim is to assist the Metropolitan Police Department, which is why we assume control of the central cell block per their request, and how we are currently in the space where we are right now. So we don't intend to advertise a footprint. We intend to do the work that we've been doing internally. We don't intend to make any significant external changes to the property. Again, not to highlight or advertise the work that's being done as a temporary holding facility within the city that is convenient for both the Metropolitan Police Department and also for court operations. That is really our intent. That is the work that we've been doing, that we've been asked to do, that we've been tasked to do, and that we've been providing to the city for almost 10 years now. So that is really our intent. And quite honestly, I understand that we have employees who are dedicated employees to the district and who are working in conditions that are really it's really rough, and they continue to come to work because they're dedicated to the work that they're doing. They believe in the work that they're doing, and they've been providing a service to the citizens of the district end over end. And we're just trying to get better space for them and the individuals who are temporarily held at the central cell block so that we can provide those services and really go about the business that we do without much fanfare or newsworthiness. I don't know how to say that any other way. That's really what our intent is.
Thank you. Appreciate that. I continue, and this is more of a comment than a question because I recognize we need to move on to constituent questions, but I continue to have serious concerns with the way that DGS and DOC have approached this. There was no community input from the get-go. We basically had to beg you all to come out to our meeting last year. And then again, the zoning process, I don't know what happened, but ANC 6E constituents were left out of the notice initially. Thankfully, that mistake was caught and we were able to address it. But I do continue to have serious concerns about the way this has been approached and the way it has been communicated to the community. So, and for the past year, I have heard basically unanimous opposition to this from constituents. So I'll close with that comment. And
you want to mute?
You're on mute.
I'll open it up to folks who have their hands raised on the line. I see Terry LaFavors first. Terry, please go ahead. And again, we'll keep this to 2 minutes as we did for the last item. Terry, you can come off mute. Terry? All right, Terry, we'll come back. Commissioner Nigro from ANC 2G. Again, 2 minutes, please. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. Can you do a video,
Oh, sure.
Chris? Thanks. It's a big deal for me.
Oh, give me 1 second. All right, go ahead.
Can y'all see me? Hey, everyone, it's Commissioner Niagara. I'm Chair of ANC 2G. I first and foremost want to thank 6E for this tonight. I really do appreciate it on behalf of all my constituents. And the thousands of people on our side of New York Avenue and the thousands of people on your side of New York Avenue that have reached out to me, we ask that you not support the special exception relief for this project. Please remember this, we were never going to be told about this project and we were not supposed to find out. Okay, if I had not looked on that webpage that fateful night in March of 2023, we literally would not have been told. Okay, so y'all, that's the high level thing. They are forced to come to you tonight. This is not out of graciousness or let's talk about the community. They do not care about the community. If they would have cared, they would have told us back in 2021, 2019, 2020, whatever year it is, they chose not to tell the community. So I ask that I seek your support for this. And let me make it clear for that with DGS, if you could answer, or Department of Corrections. So I think that they're incorrect. People are released from the current central cell block. They simply walk up the driveway. Am I correct, Department of Corrections? They walk up 3rd Street.
Commissioner Nigro, good evening, Commissioner Nigro. Good evening. As I indicated before, and I believe I said, prior to the pandemic, 2020, when COVID-19 began, individuals were not released from the central cell block. They have been released from the central cell block since the beginning of the pandemic in 2020. So yes, to answer your question, right now, we do release individuals from the central cell block at the Daily Building. It is our intent, it is our plan to resume pre-COVID operations and not release from 501 New York Avenue.
Okay, so you are releasing people on the 3rd Street. So this is only for the Department of Corrections because it is your director that signed that compromise letter that no one asked for, saying that no one would be released. So you need to tell me, Department of Corrections, it's your director that signed it. Is that document legally binding?
I think Commissioner Niagara, I'm gonna have to stop you there.
Okay, just let me answer. Is that correct, DGS?
I don't know what's the question.
Already answered this earlier tonight. And you've submitted for your request on this issue. We were happy to follow up with you directly on that question.
I'd like to address the issue of DGS not addressing the ANCs in the early phase. Again, when this was put through the permitting, sometimes the permitting process itself, they do send you to go out to the ANC. But this was submitted as a right-of-way, so that process does not require you to go to the ANC. So again, I want to make clear that the government, DGS, DOCs, we don't act as such. Actually, to the contrary, the project procurement was announced online. It's available on DGS website. There is many other project information that again were shared with the public. But again, the initial process that we were on, and again, yes, the board, the BZA determined again that they, that we needed to come back and follow this special exception. But again, the initial process that we submitted for permit, we were permitted by Department of Buildings as right of way. That process did not require us to come in front of the community. We're used to come in front of the community. A lot of you probably, when DGS went through the homeless shelter projects, that was a very, very difficult period for everybody, because of just some of the oppositions that we had. So again, DGS and our agencies and the government, does act with full respect to the constituents.
Well, Alam, respectfully, DGS did come to us proactively when a shelter was proposed in ANC 6E. That was not a requirement under zoning law because there were no zoning changes. That was also a by right project. I think you know, we can debate, you know, what is required all day long, but this is a significant government impact to our neighborhood. And I think our constituents were owed outreach, regardless of whether it was actually required by zoning. So I appreciate that, but that doesn't assuage my concerns.
And again, Chris, as we put on the slides again, you know, this site again had all the right infrastructure, the location, you know, that required the least, you know, public investment. So again, as good government, you know, everybody, MPD, DOC, DGS, again, as good government, you know, this site with the proximity to support the operation, you know, was the site. So again, the process did not take us. Again, I will leave it there that there was no intention not to leave everybody out. Okay, that was not intention.
All right. John Taylor, go ahead. You have 2 minutes. You can come off mute, John. John, can you come? Oh, there we go.
Hold on. No, you would think after all of this, I would know how to operate Zoom with pandemic. Now, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Go ahead.
Great. So apologies. I'll try to make this quick. No one in our neighborhood disputes the need for updating the central cell block in the Daily building. It's terrible conditions there. So let's take that off the table. We all agree on that. The neighbors, as you all know, we're upset about the city's process here. It hasn't been transparent. Now we can discuss why, but it just hasn't been transparent. And so that means that the city's credibility is near zero because you haven't been open and communicative with the neighborhood. I think it's important for everyone to understand why the central cell block is located where it is. It's located there because it's adjacent to the courthouse. It's in Judiciary Square where people are detained and they're held in that cell block. They're right next to the courthouse. That area is in Commissioner Prince's district, but his district is very, very large geographically. These single member districts have about 2,000 people. There are 5 other ANC districts surrounding 501 New York Avenue that take up vastly less space than Commissioner Prince's district. So what that tells us is the number of residents surrounding New York Avenue is significantly more than what you see in Judiciary Square. So what the city doesn't seem to understand is the appropriate location for this facility is next to the courthouse in a community where residents don't live. We feel like this has been shoved down our throats and we're not happy about it if you haven't picked that up. But practicality, you all have created this artificial criteria that
I'm gonna have
put
to
a
ask you
comment
to
in
wrap
there
it
as
up, John.
anonymous.
Sorry.
But I would urge the commissioners also to look at the purpose of the downtown district. You're asking for an exception.
Sorry, John. I'm gonna have to stop in 2 minutes. But
okay, you're asking for an exception.
All right. And all right, if any other folks have questions or comments, please raise your hand. Star 9 if you're on the phone. We do have some questions. I think many of them have been answered in the chat, so I'm just going to go through there quickly. Actually, it would be helpful for DOC to confirm what is the maximum number of detainees that can be
85. It's at New York Avenue.
At 501 New York, yes.
It's 85.
Okay.
I think that was covered in our presentation.
Yeah, it's on slide
Slide 12.
Okay, apologies if I missed that.
No worries. There was a lot of information.
I'm just checking. I think most of what's in here has been addressed. I'm seeing concerns from an anonymous attendee that the city has created artificial criteria for selection of the cell block because other sites were not adequately considered. I think that reflects comments that have already been made. So if any other folks on the line, feel free to raise your hand. Otherwise, I think we'll close questions and move to commissioner discussion.
There's a hand up.
Oh, that's someone who's already spoken.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. All right, so I'm going to close the conversation, and we're going to move into the ANC discussion. So I'll ask our DGS and GOC colleagues. I'm going to move you back to an attendee role. We do appreciate you coming
Thank you
out
for your time.
and I
Thank you.
really do want to thank you for hanging on with us late tonight and providing this information. And so we appreciate you for that. And so,
Thank you for taking us on this. Thank you.
Thank you.
all right, thanks a lot.
Yes.
Okay. All right, so open the conversation up for commissioners. Commissioner Forrest, do you have a comment?
Yeah. I think it's important to remember, on top of everything, this is not a large move to a different community far, far away from where the Daily Building is. It's about 5 blocks for 5 years, which is not an insignificant period of time. But as far as I am satisfied, DGS and DOC have addressed every concern that's been brought up, with the exception of the process, which I agree the process was not done correctly, not done how it should have been. Community did not have the input it should have had at the outset, but that's not the question before us. The question before us is the BZA application. The Daily Building is in disrepair. It's inhumane conditions for the people who are staying there for even just short periods of time, because it is at most 36, 48 hours if someone's brought in on like a Friday night or a Saturday night. And it needs the renovation, and it does not seem there's any alternative location available that has any semblance of working within the timeline or budget that the district has. The only concern that maybe isn't fully addressed is the slight increase in car traffic and van traffic that will occur because of this. It does not sound like that's actually a super significant amount of car traffic to me. And I think that this is something that, as much as I disagree with the process that the government went through and not engaging community, again, that's not the question before us. The question before us is the BZ application. I think the BZ application is something we should support because it's something that needs to happen.
All right, thank you. Other commissioners have comments? I will say, sorry, Commissioner Abuklaf, I'll let you go first.
No, go ahead.
I understand that, but I'm not convinced that they have met the standard that there will be no adverse effect on neighboring uses. We do live in a mixed use neighborhood. We have a variety of residential and commercial uses, but this building is, basically 12 feet across the street from townhouses. It's directly across the street from a daycare. It's directly across the street from a planned major development that Boston Properties has indicated could potentially be impacted by this, and that could cost us over 500 new housing units that we desperately need, and would be a much better fit for our neighborhood. I don't think that we have sufficient proof that there is a traffic management plan in place that won't lead to further congestion on New York.
Whereas Boston Properties said that, so I'd be interested to have that documentation.
I can find you the email. I've consistently received nothing but negative feedback from constituents and stakeholders in the neighborhood for over a year since we last considered this. I don't have a single constituent who has ever said, this is something that we should have in our neighborhood. And so I have serious concerns about the adverse impact on neighboring properties. So that's my position. Commissioner Abuklaf, go ahead.
Yeah, I just have a quick clarifying question. So the existing detention center is on 19th Southeast and E, or is that a different location?
I think that's the jail, not the
Oh,
central cell.
oh, got it. So okay. Um, yeah, I don't know. I think if it was a different use, it would be a different discussion. But I understand that the existing holding center needs rehab, but again, we're told that there were absolutely no other buildings. I don't know. Not everyone is buying that. I understand the adverse issues. The process has been not great, and also I think there are like still a lot of unanswered questions about the traffic plan and all of that, and there's an intent to not release detainees, but that's not, a legal commitment or anything like that. So under all these circumstances, I think I'm okay with opposing it. And yeah, I think this is my position. We've had this conversation for a long period of time and we still like have some unanswered questions, and I'm comfortable opposing it. If it was a different use, maybe, but not with this use.
And I saw Commissioner Forrest's hand first, and then Commissioner Carson. Commission, and then Commissioner, and then we'll go to you, Commissioner Rogers. So Commissioner Forrest.
I just forgot to put my hand down from earlier.
Oh, okay. Commissioner Carson, and then Commissioner Rogers.
Hey guys, I'm sorry. This question, it may seem a little funny, but let's say for instance, the central cell block doesn't come, and MPD, the government, decides to use it as an extension to the 3rd District Police Station, which will have the same exact components that the third District Police Station has. People getting arrested and things like that, and going to court down at the court building, possibly being released from this substation. How would you all be in support of that, or how would you guys, your thoughts on that?
So you're saying if this were a district police station that they were proposing instead of
let's say if this doesn't go through and they turn it back into a extension for 3D, and the same thing that goes on at the 3rd District Police Station will happen to go on at this police station.
Well, I think that's consistent with the existing use of the property. It was previously the traffic.
Yeah, it was, and it was a substation before that. Yeah.
But the existing use now, to my understanding, is an extension of the central cell block already.
That's not true.
No.
It hasn't been used central cell block. No.
I just was curious early on. I just was curious, guys.
It's used as overflow, no.
What's that?
I remember them saying it's used as overflow when the central cell block gets full.
I think on occasion, yes.
Yes.
Yeah, and before that, when it was a substation, it used to be an overflow for when like the big protesters and things, they would take them, when some of them get arrested, they would take them there. But I was just curious.
Yeah, no, it's a valid question. I don't really have a good answer.
Okay.
Commissioner Rogers?
Yes. Chris, these people is only telling us what the public wants to hear. They're not telling us the whole deal and the new truth of what it is. I'm going to take you through a short history lesson from the beginning of the first jail in the District of Columbia that was placed right there at Eastern Avenue across from the DC Armory. They had jailbreaks there. The new jail had jailbreaks there. And the new jail, which for CTF, was a holding cell on one side of the building, and the rest of it was jail. So, they're not telling us the whole history of what they're doing. I look at it like 85 people is in that, they said it can house 85 people. The building it's going to be really cramped, because if they can house 85 people in there, they're going to stuff 100 people in there. But the main thing is, the main thing I don't like about it, they put this, they decided to come up with a holding cell. I call it a holding cell jail, and put it so close where the people live. like you said, it's about 12 feet, a couple steps away from the building. You know, in the long run, how long is going to be there? And I say this in closing, people will start moving out their homes right there too. In the long run, they will start moving out. So I don't think I'm gonna say no to it anyway, but I don't think they tell us the full truth.
All right, thank you, Commissioner Rogers. All right, given the hour, I'd like to move forward with a motion unless other commissioners have any final thoughts. Commissioner Prince, go ahead. And Commissioner Carson, I'm not sure if that's a new hand or an old hand. But Commissioner Prince.
I'm sorry, that's an old hand. Sorry, guys.
Okay.
Okay, I'll be brief. Just a couple of points that I've been thinking about. First of all, I have some skepticism about the timeline. These projects can often take longer. And even once completed, then conditions can change and there could be need for additional space that would prevent its closure. And we also have the matter of a non-binding promise, as I understand it, not to release, although I've noted, of course, the assurance that they would return to pre-pandemic practices. I am not satisfied that there are no suitable alternatives that with enough money and political power and other things brought to bear that could not be adapted to make them work with the installation of required infrastructure such as, doors, lights, and bells and whistles. They might be in Judiciary Square, they might be further afield, and I don't think we can overlook the very, very solid wall of opposition locally. I don't see any benefits for 6E. Clearly 2G doesn't see any benefits either. And I think we have to have some control over our local affairs and act in behalf of our constituents.
All right, thank you, Commissioner Prince. All right, Commissioner Forrest, and then if commissioners have any final thoughts, please raise your hands now and we'll conclude with any final thoughts. Commissioner Forrest?
Yeah, I certainly understand that other commissioners and myself have, although I don't believe I've received any emails from any of my constituents in opposition to this, have received messages from folks in opposition to this. I also have to point out, no one is going to say, yes, I want a holding cell anywhere near where I live, even if it ultimately seems it's not going to have an impact on safety. No one's going to say, yes, I want this. But it's something that needs to happen. If it doesn't happen here, it is going to happen somewhere else. It doesn't seem like the city has anywhere else that they can do it. So to me, it seems our choice right now is either supporting, giving the city the ability to fix the daily buildings so that we can have a proper central cell block that's permanent, that it has humane conditions for people who are at this point completely innocent in the eyes of the law. They're just arrested, not even arraigned yet, haven't even been officially charged, or keep them in those conditions while the city scrambles to find somewhere else that may take years and years to even start the process again. That's to me what the question ultimately comes down to.
All right, thank you, Commissioner Forrest. All right, well, not seeing any other comments. Since this is adjacent to my SMD, I'm going to go ahead and make the motion. I move that ANC 6E oppose the special exception for 501 New York Avenue Northwest because the proposed CPD would the proposed central cell block would adversely affect the use of neighboring property and therefore should not be eligible for a special exception. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, so Commissioner Hart moved and Commissioner Blackson seconded that ANC 6E opposed the special exception for 501 New York Avenue Northwest because the proposed central cell block would adversely affect use of neighboring property and is therefore not eligible for a special exception. If folks can come off camera, because I anticipate we're going to have differing votes, just it's easier for me to keep track of. All those in favor, please vote aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
All right, so I heard Commissioner Abukalov, Commissioner Blackson, Commissioner Rogers. Any other ayes?
Aye.
Commissioner Prince,
Aye.
Commissioner Carson, and myself. All those opposed, please vote nay.
Nay.
No.
All right, so the motion passes 6 ayes, 2 nays. All right, thank you all. Again, appreciate a very thoughtful conversation. And we'll move to our, Commissioner Abukalov has communicated that he'd like to table the resolution on traffic safety in 6E05 until our September meeting. So we'll take that off the agenda and we'll proceed with Georgetown University. If they've hung on, I'm very sorry that it's so late. I don't know if folks from Georgetown are still here. Please raise your hand. All right, there's Corey. I apologize for the late hour. We had 2 issues that took up more time than we anticipated this evening. But oh, sorry, let me let you guys come off if you want to come on camera. And I'll turn it over to Corey.
And actually, Chair, if you could invite Greg, oh, there he is. I see him. Join you.
Yeah, he's here.
Hi, thanks for making time for us. I can be really quick, I think. So you all have seen this project. This is a new building at the Georgetown University Law Center. If you can go to the next slide. Here's a map of Georgetown's property, and the Law Center is in the middle there between Mass Avenue and Chews Alley. That orange spot in the lower left corner is the new law building that we're building, which you've all seen. The next slide will show you what's in it. It's classrooms and atriums and offices. Sorry for going really quick, but there's no action item attached to this. And Commissioner Prince was nice enough to meet with us previously on this project. This is a picture of the building. Like I said, classrooms, offices, event spaces. We're at 130 feet, and we got there through a design review process. The zoning, you all have seen this, the zoning commission has approved the preliminary design, and we just have a couple of changes that we're going back to the zoning commission on, and we filed the notice of intent. And so we're just explaining what's going on. This is one other picture of the building. This is going to be a coffee shop with outdoor seating available to the neighborhood. Here's the approved building. The 2 changes are a sign and a change to bicycle parking. So here's the approved. The next slide shows you the proposed sign on the upper corner, which just says Georgetown Law. The next slide will have a blow up of it. That's what it'll look like, visible from F Street. The other change is bicycle racks. Right now, this is the law campus where we have 128 outdoor bike racks. We also have long-term indoor ones, but this is just about the outdoor ones. On the left is the green on F Street. The right is the G Street green. Next slide. If we go just with the zoning rules, they go building by building, and for this one building, we'd have to have 68 racks within close proximity to the building entrance, rather than thinking of the campus as a whole. So we've been talking to DDOT. We've had our first conversation. We're going to have another one. We did a study of our existing bicycle racks, which is on the next slide, that Wells did. And you can see in the lower right chart, at peak hours, we are not at capacity. We are on certain racks and are not on others. What we've proposed to DDOT, since we already are at full capacity, is rather than all these racks around the building entrance. We expand racks on our G Street green, adding 32 bicycle racks for 32 bicycles there, and keeping the F Street green a little bit more open. Last slide just shows you the full Capitol campus, all of Georgetown's outdoor bicycle racks. We also have several hundred indoor long-term bicycle racks on campus. But this just shows you we have 282 existing racks in the neighborhood around the buildings that Georgetown has. We're proposing adding 32. We haven't filed with the zoning commission yet, but the regulations require us to or encourage us to present this to you. As I said, Commissioner Prince helpfully met with us earlier on this and had some helpful suggestions. I think was generally supportive of this approach. Unfortunately, the zoning regulations go building by building, and we don't have a full campus plan. So we're trying to move towards that with the new Capitol campus. With that, I'll take any questions.
Great, and I appreciate the notice and your continued engagement with the community as always. Commissioner Prince, I guess this is principally impacting your SMD. Do you have any follow-up questions or?
No questions. I would just like to comment. I think it makes sense that they've studied the overall bike rack need on campus and have made adjustments that would accommodate that. And I told Corey and Greg that what I would like to see in the future after the plan is implemented, then circle back at some point and just reassess and study again, and they're agreeable to that. And I'm sure it makes sense both to do this plan and to re-examine later.
Yeah. Happily, all of our interests are aligned on this. We really want to provide as many we want to encourage our own community to bike as much as possible.
No, certainly appreciate that. And I think that's been evidenced by your engagement on the New Jersey Avenue bike lane projects and other projects as well. So yeah, that makes sense to me to look at the need holistically. So no concerns. Any other questions from commissioners? Questions from folks on the line that hanging in with us. Feel free to raise your hand if you have any questions. All right, not seeing any. All right, well, Greg and Corey, we really appreciate the early outreach, and we'll look forward to seeing you back when it's time for official action on this.
You call 1023 early outreach? Thank you all.
Fair point. Have a nice evening. All right. Okay. So we do have the open forum. If anybody would like to raise anything, feel free.
Yeah, I just want to raise, I'd like to adjourn.
Well, that's not, I mean, technically that's the next agenda item. If nobody has anything else, we will move to that.
I wanted to share that I have an upcoming community day event tomorrow, family fun day event tomorrow. If you can share my flyers with the residents, I would appreciate that. Also, accepting school supplies and donations for back to school event, August the 10th.
Thanks, Denise. Anything else? Otherwise, Commissioner Hans, if you'd like to make the motion to adjourn.
Yes, I move to adjourn ANC 60's July 2024 meeting.
Surprise, it's already August. All right. So Commissioner Hans moved and Commissioner Forrest seconded to adjourn ANC 60's July meeting. All those in favor, please vote aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
All right. Motion passed. 8 ayes, 0 nays. Thank you all for hanging in there with us tonight, and have a wonderful rest of your evening.
Thank you.